All right. Feel free to start playing the video whenever you want, Avi.
Okay.
Yeah. So, who bought a debate ticket tonight? Okay, there we go. We got one. What's your name? Zachary. Great. You got a pro-Trump position you'll be debating Stephen on? Okay. Okay. Great. Excellent. Well, why don't we start with Zachary? Yeah, come on up. Everyone put your hands together for Zachary. Who's going to be our first debater tonight? Keep it going. It takes a while to walk up here. So since you're first, you're going to be holding the microphone nice and close to the mic.
Okay.
Thank you.
What's up? How's it going? So, under Trump's immigration zero tolerance policy in 2018, over 5,000 children were stripped away from their parents. And according to a Yale human rights report, between 2017 and 2021, more than 4,600 were stripped away, and 1,360 were never reunited with their parents. But I have a question more broadly regarding the concept of, what morally relevant distinction do you make between yourself and Trump when you can't name the trait between mother cows and calves and migrant mothers and children who are stripped away when 9.5 million are stripped away each year in the U.S. alone?
Well, I think the moral difference is there's probably different categories between like humans and animals and other humans. So you could be okay with one and not the other, and it'd be a different thing, even if you think that they should all be morally condemnable, like actions.
Now, I found the setup there just a tiny bit unclear. Was he running NTT between Destiny and Trump, or between cows and what? Did you catch the exact setup there?
Yeah, the idea is to say, well, okay, well, you're condemning Trump because he's separating children from their mothers, the immigrants, but you are separating children from their mothers as well, the calves from the cows, and so, since you are not really, so if you can't name the morally relevant distinction, if there's no morally relevant distinction between what you're doing and what Trump is doing, then how are you condemning Trump?
Okay, all right.
Wait, but that's actually naming something similar that I believe I would expect out of Trump, right? Because he would try to say that even though children and mothers are being separated from one another, there's some trait regarding them that he finds to be acceptable that everyone else doesn't see is acceptable. I mean, it just seems like if we were to go back in the 1850s and I were to ask a slave owner, hey, if your consciousness was uploaded into the experience of this black person, he would just reiterate the same sort of point that you mentioned, that there's differences between the white and the black individual, and instead of actually naming the trait or set of traits.
Yeah, but that's...
So, I mean...
You think,
Yeah, but that's... So, okay, so we had an answer. The answer was human. And then... But so that's not the same... That's not going to be the same answer. So Trump can give a similar answer saying, okay, well, there's different types of humans. There's migrant humans and non-migrant humans. And the trait is being a migrant or something. Whereas Destiny would not give that trait. He would say, okay, well, no, the trait is human. So that's, there'd be some sort of similarity in that response, but it wouldn't be the same response. They'd have some similarities to it, but it's not, it's still a different response.
I'm not sure I exactly followed that. So he's setting up NTT between Destiny and Trump with respect to
separating separating babies from their mothers.
Okay, and what did Destiny say in response there?
Human
separating babies from their mothers. Okay,
yeah.
Wait, so then what did...
Well, the difference would be that he's not separating human babies from the mothers, but Trump is.
I don't like the setup of this. I'm getting lost with the setup.
I don't like this. I don't like the setup of it either, but I understand it.
I'm not sure that I do, to be totally honest.
Okay, so wait, do you not understand anything I'm saying right now? So what? Forget about take my interpretation of it and tell me if you don't understand anything you're not understanding.
Your interpretation is that Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, my interpretation is that the setup is how are you condemning what Trump's doing? What's the difference? Because Trump's separating children from their mothers.
But not condemning what's
And
happening, what you're causing to happen to animals.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah, which
and
is
did he
also
say human?
separation of children from their mothers. Yes, we can
Okay.
rewind.
No, I'm
But
sorry. I'm just getting lost with this other with bringing in Trump. It's just fucking my head because I'm just trying to think.
well, I understand why he did it. He wants a vegan debate, and it's about Trump. The event is about Trump.
I understand the motivation. You have to find some way to link it to a political topic, so I get it. But yeah, it's just confusing me because he's trying to find out why the one is acceptable and the other isn't. Yeah, okay. And did Destiny say human? I'm just going to rewind there so I can just hear what he said.
Who are stripped away when 9.5 million are stripped away each year in the U.S. alone.
Well, I think the moral difference is there's probably different categories between like humans and animals and other humans. So
Okay.
you could be okay with one and not the other, and it'd be a different thing, even if you think that they should all be morally like condemnable, like actions.
Wait, but that's actually naming something similar that I believe I would expect out of Trump, right? Because he would try to say that even though children and mothers are being separated from one another, there's some trait regarding them that he finds to be acceptable that everyone else doesn't see is acceptable. I mean, it just seems like if we were to go back in the 1850s and I were to ask a slave owner, hey, if your consciousness was uploaded into the experience of this black person, he would just reiterate the same sort of point that you mentioned, that there's differences between the white and the black individual, and instead of actually naming the trait or set of traits. So, I mean,
Do you think? I mean, like,
Okay,
do you think
so
that? Do you think
yeah, so did you follow that response?
Yes, I think so.
Okay. So I don't think that response really works. It's just pointing out a similarity in what Trump could say, but it wouldn't be the same response. It wouldn't be the same trade.
I'll tell you what makes this hard for me to follow, because there is something that I find hard to follow, and I don't know if I can totally articulate it, but I understand running NTT between humans and animals. Like, you don't support separating like migrant children or something like that. You do support the same kind of thing with animals. What's the difference? That makes sense to me. But then when you add in this layer of like, and does the response you give make you similar to Trump? I'm just like, I don't like that. For some reason, that just adds another layer that just fucks my head. I would not want a multi-thread like this. Like, I just want to think about one thing. So there's something I profoundly dislike about how it's set up. And I think it's going to be a persistent source of confusion where I'm going to just have trouble tracking for literally like the whole video because of that.
Okay, well, maybe I can help the tracking. So we're on the same page. We understand the setup, regardless of whether we like it or not. We both may not like it, but we understand the setup. It's like, what's the difference between
the setup for NTT? Yeah, it seems like what's the difference? He's talking about humans and animals, and he's talking about stuff like separating mothers from their children and stuff like that. But then there's like this second layer on top of that, it seems, which is like, does your response make you similar to Trump or something like that?
Well, wait, but okay, so let's talk about that. So we got the response. So the response was human, and then the reply to that is that, well, that's a sort of similar thing that Trump would say. Trump would say that there's some trait, say migrant or something, that makes it so that one can separate. You might be able to separate the migrant, but not the non-migrant.
But I
that
thought that we were talking about humans versus animals, not different. Not
so that was the answer that Destiny provided. But I'm just telling you what the reply to that was. The reply to that was to say, well, Trump would engage in a similar sort of way. Trump would say, well, there's also some trait where we can separate the migrants but not the non-migrants, the trait of being a migrant. Now, that might be all true. I just don't think that reply really does much. I mean, because one can just say, like, yeah, and for Trump, that might be a morally relevant trait, but for me, that's not. For me, the morally relevant trait is human.
Yeah, I have just a fundamental problem with how it's happening. I can't, like, this is why I don't ever try to multi-thread conversations. I can't tell what's happening.
Wait, what?
For me,
But you don't
like,
understand. Do you understand what I was saying right now?
I don't, not really. I'm trying, like, are you addressing NTT, or are you talking about whether he's similar to Trump?
Well, that was the critique. The reply was not. The reply was. I mean, it really wasn't on NTT. The reply was just maybe the person thought was, but it's just make the point. The only point that's really being made here is that there's something similar about what Trump is doing to what you're doing, and
so it's not really a reply that has anything to do with NTT. It's like because when I hear human, I'm going, okay, so say that we gene scanned you, would it be okay to like fucking separate you from your family? That's what comes to my mind.
Yes.
But yeah.
That reply, that's a reply not made until like 30 minutes later. That reply doesn't get made until like 30 minutes later.
Okay, yeah, because that's a reply to the NTT portion, but it sounds like he's not talking about. It sounds like he's not talking about the NTT portion. He's just talking about whether whatever he said is Trumpian or something like that.
Yes, correct. Now you're understanding.
Well, yeah, I mean, so, well, so I don't like the multi-threading. I think it's confusing because I can't tell what conversation we're having. I understand the motivation. I get that you need to somehow tie it to politics, but like, what are we trying to do here? Are we trying to reply to NTT? Because there's a very straightforward answer from an NTT point of view to that. We just talk about the gene scanner. For people listening, I guess anyone who doesn't know that, you just say, okay, like, we scan you with a gene scanner. All your subjective experience is the same. Your physiology, for all you can tell, is the same. But when we hit you with the gene scanner, it actually turns out you aren't human. You've got slightly different genes. Now, would it be okay to like separate you from your family or deport you or whatever the fuck? That's the NTT reply. There's some other conversation about whether saying human is the same thing Trump would say. And that is not remote. I don't care at all about that. But it sounds like that's kind of what's happening or something.
That is what's happening.
Yeah, so I don't know. I would rather we just have one conversation, but I sort of understand you have to find some way to like jerry-rig politics into this. Yeah, I don't know. What do you think about that?
Yeah, no, I understand the motivation. I don't think the reply works
as a reply to NTT.
As a reply to NTT, or even like as a Trumpian. No, I don't think a reply is any.
Sorry, I should be careful about what I say. As a reply. Under the assumption that we're doing the NTT dialogue, and what Destiny has just said is interpreted as an answer to NTT between the migrants and animals, that is not the right reply.
Correct. I also don't think the reply really works in the other conversation either. But
what's the other conversation? It's just if you're similar to Trump, is that the same thing Trump would say?
Yeah, you're similar to... Yeah.
Okay, so would Trump say that it's just that one's human and the other isn't human? I mean,
no, he would say one's a migrant and one's not a migrant.
But we're talking about that's symmetry breaking some migrants from others. I thought we were talking about humans and animals. Are we wondering how Trump would
but that's not Trump. But that's not Trump's view. Like Trump wouldn't have that view.
But wait, but it sounds like you're saying what Trump's response would be if someone NTT'd him on migrants versus like non-migrants or something like that. But I think
it's not even NTT. It's like he migrants versus non-migrants. Yeah, he'd give a different trait.
Yeah, but why are we talking about migrants versus non-migrants? I thought that I thought ColdPoison was saying that this is how Trump would reply to NTT between humans and animals. Like,
well, then he'd still give a different trait. The different trait would be, well, assuming an idealized version of Trump where he's not an idiot, he would say animals versus human non-migrants.
Animals no. But if someone said, what's the if someone ran NTT on Trump, just like
the trait is being a human non-migrant,
rather than just being
a human.
Oh, you think he'd say being a human, but an animal's not a fucking migrant.
An animal is not a human. An animal is not a human non-migrant. A non-human animal is not a human non-migrant.
Okay,
The
but-
trait Trump would give is a human non-migrant. The trait Destiny would give is human. They're different traits.
I think that Trump would just say human, but I think that we might. Firstly, I want to.
Wait, I just already accounted for that. I said an answer that makes them consistent.
Just give me a second. So just a second. I understand you're talking about some idealized Trump, but okay. Firstly, I feel like the question is fucked because the thing you would ask Trump is you would start from the humans who he doesn't support deporting. So we're not talking about migrants. We're just talking about the humans he wouldn't want to deport or separate from their families or whatever, and animals.
Same answer. Human non. Yeah. So the trait is human non-migrant.
Why? But
Those are the ones he doesn't want to deport.
we're already talking about the non-migrants though, so you wouldn't say non-migrant.
No. He's saying that. Well, no, he's giving a conjunction.
But
He's saying, like-
but no. Picture NTT has humans. Who,
No, he's not talking about.
Just
He's saying Yeah, go ahead.
picture NTT on Trump, which who knows exactly what the fuck Trump would say, but picture NTT on Trump between humans who he doesn't support deporting. So we're not talking about migrants and animals. I don't think he would
picture
say
it.
anything about migrants. We're already talking about non-migrants.
Well, no. Well, no, because it wouldn't. If he doesn't talk about migrants, then there would be humans that wouldn't be captured by his view because.
No, because we're talking
If
about I'm saying that if we
Oh,
ran
that already he doesn't support.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay,
Yes.
then he would. Okay, yeah,
and
yeah,
that would
yeah.
be the
But
right
then-
way
but
to run NTT because you wouldn't run NTT
Yeah.
on something that he has like partially kind of the same view on. You would take as the animals, you would take the humans who he doesn't support this for, and you would take the animals who he does, and you'd say NTT, and he wouldn't say
But
migrant.
that really wouldn't be. But that wouldn't be accounting for like what explains because the whole thing was framed as not Trump answering the same question as Destiny. The whole thing was framed as why as Trump separating immigrants versus him separating cow.
I kind of think
So-
that the question setup is fucked because it sounds.
Well,
like,
I agree, but I agree because
but
fine,
do
it's
you get
fucked,
why?
but-
Do you get why I'm saying it's fucked though?
I think I understand why it's fucked, but it's not because it's incoherent. It's because I understand the reason why it's not a good setup. But
Yeah,
it is coherent, and on that setup, there are different answers. Like if you're asking the question like why is it that Destiny is okay with separating in the case of a cow calf, but not the migrants versus why is Trump okay with separating the migrants versus the non-migrants? They are different traits. One is human and one is a non-migrant. Human.
the thing. See, there's
But now you can say, well, they'd answer the same thing for if you're set up, but it's not. That's not the setup.
No, I'm naturally thinking about how to set it up properly, and it's like I
Right.
might just be fucked, but I don't even go down these pathways when it's like the setup.
Well, we're doing a debate review, Isaac. So
Well,
I'm just analyzing what's in the debate.
Yeah, because the way that you would you wouldn't want to set it up where okay, here's an NTT setup. Like the whole point of NTT is you need fucking one thing on the one side that they're against the action, and you need another thing on the other side where they're like agnostic about it or for it, right? So that is the case if you do humans broadly versus animals for Destiny, but that's not even the case if you do humans broadly versus animals for Trump, because there's a whole class of humans that he's fine treating in that same way.
Yeah,
So
that's
it's-
right.
So it's not actually even set up properly because it's not.
Right. No, I understand. Yeah, I agree. Listen, it's not set up in the way NTT would be set up. I agree. I'm just taking that as it is and pointing out that because it's not set up like that, there would be different answers.
I don't even know if it makes sense to think of it as an answer because what's the way that you would ask NTT? You would say
Well,
you'd
no,
say-
but now you're going back into the other framing of the way it's not. It wasn't asked that way. You're going back into like you there's the magnet is pulling you, Isaac.
yeah, I just don't even
I'm
think
just-
it's NTT or something. It's like you're just doing some other.
Well,
thing.
it's not. Sure. Yeah. for this other thing, they're different answers.
Well, what's
And
the,
so that's the response to saying that you're similar. The response to saying
but-
you're similar is no, we're different. Here's the difference.
I don't think there is a response because I think the question just comes out loaded on the framing that we're doing there. If the question is what's the difference between animals and humans such that it's wrong to do this to humans and right to do this to animals? Well, wait, you've loaded the question.
You're going back to the framing.
No, just one second.
Wait,
just 1 second. You've
yeah.
loaded the question because Trump doesn't think that it's wrong for all humans, right? So the question is
Yeah.
set up incorrectly. So I don't think
Right.
there's really
It's set up in a sort of way where it's like, okay, well, what is the thing that it's more, the question is different. The question is more like, well, what is the certain thing that allows you to separate children from their parents?
Well, no,
and
I
you'd
think-
ask Trump and Destiny both of that.
I think it's incoherent actually because I
Well,
think
that's
that
not incoherent.
I don't know exactly how you framed it.
Well,
there.
what I just framed is not incoherent. It's what's the property that allows you to separate that doesn't allow you to separate children from their parents, and there's clear answers on both sides to that question. Destiny's answer is being a human. If you're a human, you're not allowed to separate the children from the parent. Trump's answer is being a non-migrant human. If you're a non-migrant human, you're not allowed to separate the Trump from the parent. It's a coherent question. They're two coherently different answers.
As I understand what ColdPoison is asking, it's not there's not going to be an answer to the question because what I'm thinking is he's asking what's true of animals such that if true of humans, sorry, he's starting from this setup that you oppose this for humans and you don't oppose this for animals, and then asking him to NTT there. But the setup is wrong. There's not a thing like that because that's not Trump's view, right? His view isn't that it's wrong to do this generally to humans. So from as far as I can see, that's just a loaded question. There's not I don't know how best to say this. There's not an answer to loaded questions. Like yeah, like what? How the fuck do you answer a loaded question? You know, like the question is making a false assumption. So
Okay, so if you think the question was loaded, no, I agree if you interpret the question being asked in a loaded way, I don't know if that's what's happening here. I think that the question that was asked was just not NTT, and you're trying to force it into NTT. And I agree if you try to do that, you get a loaded question.
I thought he was trying to say, like, look, with Destiny, we do, okay, humans versus animals, NTT between why it's okay to separate one from their kids or not. Then Trump, humans versus animals, NTT, why it's okay to separate one from their kids or not. I thought that's what's happening. And I'm pointing out that would be a loaded question for Trump.
Yeah.
Because Trump already thinks, he doesn't think that it's wrong for humans necessarily.
Yep. I agree with all that if that's the interpretation of what the question is trying to ask.
Well, are you saying you think I'm misinterpreting what ColdPoison is doing?
Well, I don't think that's what he asked. Maybe he tried to do that. I don't think that's what he asks.
I'm assuming when he says that's the same answer Trump would give, he's saying like if Trump were asked the same, like if you asked Trump the same question, he'd say the same thing you just said. Same question being NTT.
Or he'd say a similar. No, he's saying he'd say a similar thing. Like he already granted Trump would be giving different traits. Like he said, like one of the traits was being black, for example. ColdPoison said that. So on his view, the answers would be different.
Yeah,
we could play it again.
I mean, it doesn't really matter. I just think this whole thing is just a total mess. So I just think this is basically just trash right now. I don't like any of this.
No, hey, listen, we're on the same page now.
Okay.
Do you think a human life and an animal life are exchangeable? Like have the same moral consideration, like from one to the other?
You mean morally equal?
Yeah.
You often equate moral sufficiency and moral equality, and that brings up a really good question because it's quite...
I also don't know why he would do this. Like, why would you let Destiny randomly steal the line of questioning like that and start talking about equality or something? Like, if you're trying... I mean, I thought he was trying to run NTT. If you're trying to run NTT and he says human, there's just a very simple response to that, which is just to say, the gene scanner thing, which comes up later. And I thought this was a great performance when I first saw it, because I come in later when they're talking about the gene scanner and Destiny's floundering on it. And I was like, oh, this is great. But this is all fucked right now.
Quite obvious, as you've said many times before, that no intelligent vegan position would actually equate the two. There would be some sort of hierarchy, like when you spoke to Cosmic Skeptic. And so I think this actually exposes my point yet further, because if about 70 million would have been stripped away between animals between that time, and there would have been about 5,000 children. I mean, that's about a difference of, what is it, 70,000 times? I mean, or 7,000 times. Is it really the case that the moral value of animals isn't even to a sufficient level of consideration, even though 70 million would have been stripped away between that time and only 5,000 for children?
I mean, I think you can have hierarchies within buckets. So, like, we could say that, we wouldn't necessarily say that, like, we put one human life would go in a different moral bucket than another human life. But, like, if we were comparing two humans, to some extent, we have to make some of these calls when it comes to, say, organ transplants, right? If you could transplant a new heart into a 90-year-old patient versus, like, a 20-year-old patient.
Where's the moral dilemma? You could value both. You could denounce both. It's not like you have to choose between the
Yeah, but we're not talking about
children.
that. So the thing that you're hitting me with is you're saying, what's the difference morally between you and Trump if you're condemning Trump for separating human babies and
The
human
morally
adults?
relevant distinction, not just the difference.
Well, sure. Well, I mean, I think it's a morally relevant distinction that that I would protect greater classes of humans than he would, even if neither of us would protect, I guess,
If
animal
you can
life.
value both, then what do you mean greater? What's the relevance of that?
Well, you're drawing a larger circle around what should be protected than what I would draw. I would draw a smaller circle, and then Trump would draw an even smaller circle still, so that would be the difference, right?
What do you mean smaller circle? The arbitrary.
As in, my circle would include immigrants, and his circle doesn't include immigrants. So mine is larger and his is smaller. But you're saying, well, why is it that if your
You mean the net amount of total beings, right?
Well, we're talking about categories of people, but sure.
Is that a yes? Because you said smaller circle.
No, net implies number. I'm talking categories of things. Like, I'm talking about different categories of things.
So what do you mean by the larger and smaller circle?
The larger circle would include a greater number of categories of things that I would protect in terms of life. than
Right,
Trump's.
which effectively means the total number of beings, right?
Not necessarily, no.
No.
So then what do you mean?
There's a difference between a category and a thing itself, right? Like, a category could have a million things.
What's the
so
category
somebody
that's
could protect
encapsulate?
10 categories, and each category could have one thing, and another guy could protect one category with a million things. But yeah.
No offense, but this all sounds like jargon, right? Because if I was asking someone
Hold on,
again,
wait.
who's a slave-
It's not jargon. He's just answering the question. I don't know if you think this is jargon, but seems to be just answering the questions that are asked. Like, what's the difference? Why do you value this? Well, I have different categories. You could put it in a categorical difference. You can say, well, humans are just in a completely separate category. So it's not like you add a bunch of shrimp and you get a human. It's in a different bucket. I think that's all fine. That's it. It's not jargon. It's not, it's certainly intelligible. And I don't think it follows that it's like there's like a numerical difference either. I take the point that it's, you can have like a greater number of categories. So it's like, okay, well, migrant human and human brought a non-migrant human is a greater number of categories than just my non-migrant human alone. And then,
I understand that you could have so there's a primary thing of just I don't know how many times I need to say this. I despise the setup here. This is just totally fucked. So I have a really hard time.
You're going to be fucked for a long time, Isaac.
I know. I said it at the outset. It might literally be a video that's not worth uploading, to be totally honest, because of this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So for me, I have this way of thinking where I'm always thinking back to the core point, and if we're talking about the core point, and for me, like, there's some level. So
maybe this would be helpful. So,
well, wait.
I think
Let
we
me say
should
one
recognize
thing.
it.
I just wanted to grant you one thing, which is I of course do understand the point, though, that you can have a larger amount of categories and a smaller amount of things in the categories. Mm-hmm. So that's all obvious. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think maybe this would be helpful. Maybe in terms of the framing, I think maybe just recognizing and acknowledging that we're off the point. Maybe we get back to the point at some point, but the analysis of the debate is off the point that you want it to be.
It's,
So
I have a
with
hard
that
time
all-
even telling, like because there's what, like, which point is it? Is the point fucking NTT between animals and
No, we're off
migrants, or-
NTT right now. We're off NTT. We're not on NTT.
No, I mean the initial point. Like, is that supposed to be the initial point, or is the initial point is Trump similar?
The
to
attempt,
Destiny?
the attempt. So the attempt, the intention was to try to use Trump politically to run NTT. Where we're at now, though, is we're not running NTT.
You
We're off of
understand.
it.
You understand from my point of view, though, something like use Trump politically to run NTT. I'm just too autistic for that. That is like not a clear point in my head. Like here's something.
I'm
that could
talking
be-
about the intentions. You understood this before. You said
Well,
I understand why you want to use the. It's about this. So you have to
Just-
link it.
I could understand. So here's some points I could understand. I could understand the point of this is to run NTT between humans and animals. I could understand the point of this is, does Destiny answer NTT in the same way as Trump? Those are some points I could understand. I'm not sure which is the main point. I might have to go rewatch that, and maybe it wasn't even made clear.
It's not the point. I'm just talking about the motivations for why this has happened. Okay, this is all fucked, but I'm just telling you what the motivation seems to be. The motivation seems to be to try to modify the setup to try to make it Trumpian. Try to make it like compatible with the topic.
At that like very vague general level, I understand. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And I'm saying as a result of that, we're not on NTT anymore. We're just fucked. We're in fucked. We're off.
Are we on?
So-
is Destiny similar to Trump anymore?
Vaguely, in some way, we're on. Is Destiny similar to Trump? But it's going to cascade into a whole bunch of different things. And I think what would be helpful is to just let go of
Abandon the core
NTT.
point.
Just
just
let go of the.
So
for the point of debate analysis.
and I'm fine with that. And maybe we should have just done that from the start. Because for me, it's like, unless like maybe I'm just autistic like this, but unless you like literally tell me, just don't even try to connect this to any kind of core point. Just forget about that, and just take everything as it comes as just a fresh thing. It's like, yeah, I can do that. That's not naturally how I think. I naturally just fall into this kind of like bitching about it not being clear how it relates to the core point or what the core point even is kind of thing. But yeah, we can also just try to approach it fresh and just see for each fresh thing that's said sort of what we make of it.
Yeah, like for the purpose of debate analysis, because like you can recognize in a debate, like, all right, they're off the point. The point is maybe they'll get back to it, but the point's gone. So okay. I mean, there's nothing much else to analyze except whatever new point is there.
That's fine. I'm fine with that. And just for the record, when it does come back, the point you're taking to be whether Trump is similar to Destiny or how Destiny answers NTT between humans,
it could be
migrants and animals or something.
Well, it's the NTT thing. There could be another point brought up, which seems to be trying to brought up is like, oh, are you similar? Are you too similar to Trump in a way that's objectionable?
Okay, yeah. Well, then let's just take everything afresh. But yeah, that's like a big triggering thing for me that just makes me like get very lost. But yeah, we can just process each thing like a fresh thing.
Hold on, wait.
Yeah.
We're fighting over the play button, aren't we?
Slave owner. If I ask someone who's a slave owner, what does it exclude?
This is not jargon. I'm being pretty precise with my language. I'm saying that I would draw a bigger circle around the categories of things, not necessarily the individual numbers of people in those things or the individual numbers of things in those categories. I'm saying there are certain categories that I care about, like the separation of immigrant children from immigrant parents, and Trump doesn't seem to care about that. So I would have apparently I'm casting a wider net in terms of categories.
Sounds exactly what Trump would say. He would just make a point that he at least cares about a larger number of beings than some other dictator who cares about less, like Xi Jinping.
Well, it's not the exact same point, though, because the amount of things that he cares about is not the exact same.
Yeah, there's a structural similarity that you're saying, like the point might be, I don't know that Trump would have the IQ to make any of these points, but we'll just assume our idealized Trump or whatever. There's a structural similarity in that in both cases you're saying I care about a bigger group than some other person, but they're not the same point as each other.
Right, exactly.
Xi Jinping or Putin or, North Korean dictator.
Yeah, but that might be true, right? I don't know if I would fight. If Trump were to say, well...
So then it's not a more relevant distinction then, is it?
Well, the
Because
distinction
you
we're trying...
Well, yes, it would be. I mean, what do we mean by morally relevant distinction if that wouldn't be a morally relevant distinction?
And are we talking about distinction between him and Trump?
Yeah, him and Trump's. He would give the categories that they value are different, and it's very clear on the basis of what the difference is, like migrant versus non-migrant. For Trump, there's a morally relevant distinction between a migrant and a non-migrant, and for Destiny, there isn't.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Trying to draw us
That
between me and Trump. There might be a morally relevant distinction between like Trump and Hitler. I would acknowledge that.
No. But the morally relevant distinction that I was asking you was with regards to the separation of mothers and children. And if he would effectively just say the same thing, that there's somebody out there who's worse than him, that doesn't justify the...
He's not just saying the same. He's not going to be saying the same thing as something else that worse than him. He need not say that. He just need to say the trait is migrant. And Destiny wouldn't say the trait is migrant. That's all.
the question that's being posed.
Yeah, but we're not justifying anything. You just asked for a distinction.
A morally relevant distinction.
You can have a morally relevant distinction between two things, but both things are still bad. There's a difference between assaulting someone and murdering someone.
Well, then it sounds like you're assuming that. So do you want to ask what a morally relevant distinction would be defined as, instead of just taking it to mean something that can be posed?
Well, he's the one invoking the term morally relevant distinction, and given what's happening, I'm not sure how he means it. Because to me, it seems like those things mentioned were morally relevant distinctions. You know.
Posed to the agent themselves?
Well, I guess when you say morally relevant distinction, what do you mean by that?
The same exact way that Isaac would have posed it to you, Vegan Gaines would have posed it to you, despite you know.
That's
going
not
to your
telling me
echo chamber
anything. I'm asking
stream.
you what do you mean when you say that?
Yeah, so I was trying to finish my sentence. So the same thing that would be meant, which is to your own view. Do you think that you avoid the logical consequences behind the thing it is that you're justifying? That would be.
I don't know what morally relevant distinction means from that.
I don't think that.
So
it's not obvious to me. That's what I mean when I talk about a morally relevant distinction. Usually, if I say a term like that, maybe ColdPoison means something like this. I'm not sure, but I think that the kind of thing that I'm saying is like you have two different moral evaluations, and the morally relevant distinction is the thing that accounts for the different evaluations. Those evaluations could be in one case good, in the other case bad. It could be in one case good, in the other case better, in one case bad, in the other case worse. But the morally relevant distinction is just the thing that accounts for the difference in moral evaluation.
Yeah, that's right.
Logical consequences behind the thing that you have to own the consequences of the thing you're justifying. No,
but what you mean? Like admit that you hold the position?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Of course, I would hope you're not being dishonest.
Okay. So what is the?
Well, I mean, it's your view, right? So you said the trait was being human. Was the trait that made it morally acceptable to strip mothers and children away in one context and not the other, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
But now.
Okay, now it sounds like NTT.
Now we're talking about like how I'm protecting things. Before, the thing that you premised this on was that Trump's distinctions were his distinction between immigrants and non-immigrants. I can't criticize that because I don't draw a distinction between
not
humans
that you
and
can't.
non-humans.
Not that you can't. That it would be a morally relevant distinction, and it would be very funny
when you say morally relevant, what do you mean?
I think you jumped the gun with your excitement too much. We are not getting back to NTT until like 30 minutes, Isaac.
It sounded like a NTT for a second, but yeah.
Yeah, we're going to get into some vague things that sound like it. So again, for the purpose of analysis, I need you to abandon this magnet. I know it's there.
I have abandoned the magnet. I'm just looking.
Okay, good,
I'm just looking for when it seems like we've made our way back to the topic. That's not the same thing as interpreting everything in terms of the topic. But yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Morally relevant. What do you mean when you say that?
So yeah, I'll say it again, that the logical consequences of the view, right, morally relevant, would be a large distinction. I'm not saying it's the case that cows don't have hooves or...
No, wait, I just define that thing. I don't understand what that means, morally relevant. What do you mean a morally relevant...
Yeah, so I don't like any of this about large distinction or any of this stuff. Just morally relevant, you have two different evaluations. The morally relevant thing is the thing that accounts for the different evaluations. Like say that you evaluate humans and animals differently, and say that they have different DNA, but that doesn't really factor into your evaluation. That's like not morally relevant, your moral evaluation. But say that something like their intelligence does factor into your evaluation, that accounts for why you value them differently. Well, that is morally relevant. So morally relevant, we're just talking about basically the thing that accounts for the difference in moral evaluation.
Relevant distinction.
A morally relevant distinction would be something that makes a difference of consideration to a large enough degree that it would move you from one position versus the other.
Okay.
Okay, that's getting a little closer.
that would move you from
Okay,
one
so it has to
position
be
the
something
other.
that.
Yeah, yeah. I still wouldn't phrase it like
Yeah,
that.
not precise, but we're getting a little bit closer.
Yeah.
It's like a binary, like, or it's like a categorically different thing. So, like, there's no morally relevant difference between assaulting someone and murdering someone to you. They're both just wrong, right?
Assaulting someone and murdering someone. No, there's hierarchies to these concepts, of course.
Well, okay, so then I don't understand. Then it feels like that saves my argument from your morally
No.
relevant distinction.
Having a hierarchy doesn't mean that you're not excluding beings from having protection with regards to their right to life and basic autonomy, simply because of what you just mentioned was a species, right? If my gene detector just went off and found out that Destiny is actually not the species of what you are, which is human, is it okay to kill and eat you?
Okay, now it feels like that was the thing that should have been said like 8 minutes ago, but that's the right response to someone saying human is the trait.
By your own logic?
Well, I don't know. That's a whole separate argument.
You don't know?
Well, that's a
Wait, but if
separate.
hold.
Now, ironically, Destiny is correct to say that it's a whole separate argument because of what happened for the last 8 minutes. That the whole separate argument is the NTT.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really shit on Destiny there, though. His answer, did he just say he doesn't know? Because if he did say that, that is absolutely fucking insane. Let's just hear that again. But I agree with you.
Not the species of what you are, which is human, is it okay to kill and eat you? By your own logic?
Well, I don't know. That's a whole separate argument.
I don't know. Yeah, so it's I can't tell. I'm being really charitable. Maybe he's saying like I don't know, as in maybe he's not. The overly charitable interpretation, maybe it's not overly charitable. There's a charitable interpretation where you don't interpret the I don't know as him actually saying I don't know to that question, but just kind of like blurting out some words. Like we all kind of do this, like blurting out sort of something, but really just redirecting to the other topic, and there's not really much meaning in it at all. So you could interpret him like that. But if he's actually answering the question by saying, I don't know if it would be okay to just murder me where I stand if the gene beeper goes off, I mean, that obviously would be a completely fucking just absolutely insane position that nobody, carnist or vegan, agrees with. Just to really, this might sound like this is probably is a pedantic point, but I do think it's worth noting. The way the question was phrased was malformed. You don't want to phrase it if the machine beeped and it found out that you were not, it turned out that you were not the species that you actually are, which is human. You're non-human. That actually is just a contradiction in the question. You want to frame it as if you're not the species you thought you were, which is human. You are the species that you are. That's fair. Yeah, I agree with that.
So actually it is correct to say I don't know. Because he's actually technically asking a contradiction.
Though I doubt that is why he's saying I don't know. I suspect that the I don't know is an answer to the question in the way that we're interpreting it, or it's just a kind of little, like, almost meaningless kind of blurt out as he redirects to the thing he cares about. Like, he's just saying, like, you could say I don't know kind of like, I'm not really thinking about that right now. I'm thinking about the topic we were on, and let's talk about that. So I think that's the most charitable one you could give him there.
You don't know?
Sorry. We're fighting over it again, aren't we?
We're talking. Well, that's a
wait,
totally
but if
separate.
Hold on.
You're jumping.
But if it's
you're
your
jumping,
view, if it's your view,
I'm not going to answer whatever question you say because you're jumping topics completely. The initial question was.
Yeah, and I think Destiny is right about this. I think that my biggest problem with ColdPoison here, because it seems like ColdPoison knows the vegan stuff reasonably well. Like that's the right answer on the vegan thing, but this framing and jumping around and like all this is just totally fucked. And I actually agree with Destiny if he's going to be like, look, pick your lane and let's like stay in that, and I'm not going to hop all over the place with you. I think that's actually, although very often my problem with Destiny is that he doesn't do this, I actually am very sympathetic to that and would do the same thing.
Whether or not I would be able to essentially criticize Donald Trump's position if it would be hypocritical of me to do so because I'm not vegan.
You can justify it, but the question is if you can justify it to any meaningful degree to which your audience would say, oh, wow, that's something that makes a difference. When Frederick Douglass gave his speech on the 5th of July in 1852, he talked about the very core foundation of name the trait. The same underlying logic that said not what difference is there, but he essentially pointed to a trivial difference. Or Elizabeth Stanton, who asked, the same prejudice that allowed for color, allowed for sex. It's just these trivial differences. So I think that democracy was built off of the same exact question that's being posed to you, and you just keep essentially running back to these concepts that no one can really understand when they try to unravel it. I'm still having difficulty understanding it. Is the trait human that you think makes it acceptable?
It is, but that wasn't what the initial thing was. The initial thing was me and Trump can have a different position on immigrants, and I don't lose the ability to criticize
You
him
keep
for
saying
that.
different and taking out the component that I think matters, which is morally relevant distinction.
Sure, we can have a morally relevant distinction on how to treat immigrants, and I can
To
criticize
whom? To yourself, right?
What do you mean?
You said we can have a morally relevant distinction, right?
Yes.
From your own view, right?
Sure.
I would ask your audience if you think that you're morally distinct from Trump because you drew the line at where moral value was lost simply because of the trait species. Again, I think if you were honest about the reductio that I gave you, which falls from the view that I took my little beep detector out and said Destiny is actually an android, that your audience would not want to kill and eat you by your own logic, but you would agree in order for, I'm sure, to maintain logical consistency that that's the case, right?
Not necessarily. That's a really complicated question.
Wait, no, but it would follow from the view. If the trait was actually genuinely what you just said.
See, now he's jumping back. So we see how we're flipping back and forth between whether you're too similar to Trump to be a hypocrite versus now going back to NTT. Now, eventually, I think, yeah. And now, eventually, I think now, if I were Destiny, I would still prevent him from going back to NTT because he just. But eventually, I think Destiny just doesn't do that. I think he just gives in and does the NTT. Which actually is the error on Destiny's part. Ironically enough, the error is to actually give into this.
Yeah, because it seems like ColdPoison, when he just gets on the track of NTT, is fine. But the whole problem is that the setup is fucked, and he's like jumping around between other things. That's like my whole problem with how this is happening right now. Like, there's just a very simple track through this, which he seems to understand, which he should just be staying on. NTT between animals and humans, or the ones that you don't want to have their children deported, whatever. And then if he says human, give him the gene scanner. And then if he says fine, then the reductio is like, okay, well, yeah. I mean, you think it's okay to, well, the gene scanner is the reductio, but this is the right line of reasoning. So it's kind of weird because ColdPoison keeps like moving kind of off of NTT into these, like, from my point of view, like pointless tangential distractions, and when he actually just stays on NTT, he's doing fine. That's so far my assessment of this. Do you share that assessment?
I share that. Well, let's
so far
so far let's continue.
Wait, but do you share that assessment?
Yeah, no, so far that means yes. That means yes so far.
Okay.
What you just said, which was being human, then it would have to follow from your view. You should not know that. You should know that. This is just like when you spoke to Vegan Gains. You said you weren't sure, but you should be sure if that's your view.
Sure. So that's a totally different argument. We were focusing on the Trump thing. If you want to have like a general...
Well, also, you don't really need that for the reductio. So, if someone's not sure if it would be problematic to like fucking stab them in the throat if a little beeper goes off, that is a completely insane position anyway. You don't need them to be like, I'm sure it's fine. So, just saying I don't know is completely insane. The answer that's not insane is to say no. If the gene beeper goes off, of course it's not okay to stab me. I still have the same experience. I still want to go home and stream more tomorrow. I still want to make the changes I want to make in the world and live my life. Good experience. Like this is
Yeah. Now Destiny is still doing the correct thing. He's still pointing out the change in the topic. I mean, the correct approach here is just to either like acknowledge that and he's granting saying like we can have a general conversation about NTT if you want, but I'm just saying that's not what we were talking about. Now he's actually offering. He's giving the offer to do it. The correct solution so there's a couple of ways of approaching it. You could either concede the Trump point and just go to the NTT conversation that you were offered.
Please do that.
Yeah. We'll see what that happens.
And also, just in terms of it being the correct thing for Destiny to do, this kind of is going to depend on where you draw the point of like the initial topic. Like, I guess you could just say, once ColdPoison switches off into other topics, it's always fine to kind of be like, well, I was interested in talking about this one, and you switched to this one, and this one's open, or something like that. But if you interpret the original topic as NTT, you might say ColdPoison is always going back to the main point, or something like that. But either way, either way, I just think ColdPoison has got this problem of introducing tons of random unrelated stuff or humoring random unrelated stuff and just ending up on tangents. And then once they're open, it's harder to shut them down. So, yeah.
argument, I guess, about veganism, that we can have like the general argument about
It's
veganism.
still
But
no. It entails the concept of name the trait, but it still
No.
I don't know what that means.
I do not either.
it still
No, name
reduces
the
down
trait is
to
a
it still
singular-
reduces down to Trump
No, so
because if
name
you
the trait
think,
is a singular way by which we can try to expose a non-vegan's hypocrisy when it comes to veganism if we want.
not hypocrisy, logical inconsistency, or absurdity, and it seems like you're taking that one.
Whatever, sure, whatever you want to say. But the
broader question's about Trump, though.
Yeah. Even the comparisons to the slave-owning people before, I don't think were necessarily compelling. Like, even if a person, might have a bad view on slavery.
Okay, I do think I know what he means. So I think the main question is whether Destiny is similar to Trump. And when he says entails NTT, I think what he's trying to say is like the way that I'm trying to show that you're similar is in how you both would answer NTT.
We
Sure.
would still say there's a huge moral difference between a person's view on human life who wants to kill all humans or enslave all humans versus somebody who wants to enslave just a certain race of humans. The person who wants to enslave anyone, would you not recognize there's a difference between those two people?
Again, you keep saying
I'm gonna
difference.
ask
It's a
that
morally
over-
relevant distinction.
Is there a morally relevant distinction between those two people? Somebody who wants to enslave all people or somebody who wants to enslave just one kind of person?
Of course. If there,
Okay,
if
wait,
there was a
so
woman
they
who was
can
going to be
have a
raped
morally-
and killed versus
Yeah.
just killed, I would obviously choose one evil over the other. But
Sure,
that
so then
moral
why-
dilemma
so why can't I make
doesn't
the
get
same
you out of-
distinction?
That moral dilemma doesn't get you out of the base question, which you don't have to choose either.
What do you mean you don't have to choose either?
You don't have to choose either atrocity.
Sometimes you
can
do,
denounce.
though, right? Like in an election, you have
Is
to...
that the context that's being asked of you?
Well, the context that was being
You
asked...
can't answer yes or no. I'm just going to ask, is that the context that was originally being asked of you, or did you assume that?
I don't know.
Because-
I don't know how this maps onto the concept. Originally, it seemed like the question...
Sure, so stripping mothers and children away
Yes.
for the context exactly as we do in regards to animals, which is just to eat them, or Trump actually at least has a better, on the book superficial sounding reason because he's trying to protect America, but you're actually lower than that on that tier because you're talking about the
Then
concept
don't
of just
vote for
eating
me,
animals.
I guess, if you care about veganism. I mean...
Wait, what's that?
Don't vote for me, I guess, if you care about veganism. I don't...
That sounds exactly what Trump would do. He would use humor in order to deflect instead of actually defending.
I'm
his
not
position
using
logically.
humor to deflect. I think that you can have two people that are both
You
non-vegans.
just said don't vote for you,
You
right?
can have
Was
two
that your
people
position?
that are non-vegans, and you can have like a moral distinction between the two in the
You
positions
just
they
said you're
hold.
not joking,
Sure.
right?
Yeah. What?
Well, you just said don't vote for you on veganism. I think if Trump said don't vote for me on black rights, again, you've only proven my point that you are MAGA. You're succumbing to the same exact ideology underlyingly. That,
Okay, do you
guys,
think
that's
that-
not to say that he has the identical views that are held, but the underlying logic therein. If you think that there's a morally relevant distinction, I implore you to actually think about it.
Okay.
Saying okay rhetorically and not going back to how you think you're morally distinct doesn't get you out of the point.
I've already said how I'm morally distinct. You don't accept the answer because
but
you're...
you have it. But every single time rhetorically you've lost it because you're going up against.
No, I
someone who's
haven't lost it
philosophically
because you want to
competent.
have a further debate on like how to justify the position of veganism.
No, underlyingly, it comes back around to that. If you think that there is some sort of a distinction between humans and animals that makes it acceptable, but if your justification hinges on you being distinct from Trump because of that underlying distinction, that's not necessarily the same thing.
Can you repeat that?
Yeah. So the broader question is still, how do you morally distinguish yourself from Trump? Underlyingly, there's a premise of that if you can't name a morally relevant distinction between humans and animals, such that one atrocity of stripping mothers and children away in one context because of speech is acceptable, then yes, you can go back to name the trait. But if you're the point is just that there's two separate questions. One's a question within a question with regards to name the trait. I just assumed, or not really assumed, but knew from what your public position was last on veganism that you said, the trait was species, so on and so forth. You had a chance to name it again, but that again, that doesn't sound like anything else Trump would or wouldn't say. It sounds exactly like what he would say. He would try to name mothers and children are being stripped away. Well, they're just another species. Don't vote for me when it comes to black rights or women's rights, Jew rights, any of these other rights.
Okay, so it seems like we're still on the... Okay, a couple things. So they're still operating on different notions of morally relevant distinction as opposed to a difference. Which ironically, Destiny seems to be in line with what we think a morally relevant distinction is, and ColdPoison seems to be operating on another notion. And because it's operating on another notion, there's a little bit of crosstalk, but also, yeah, the conversation is still about, are you too similar to Trump or something? And that's just not really going to get much of anywhere. I mean, Destiny's just going to say no, because I value these things that are different than Trump, and ColdPoison's going to say, well, that's because of the underlying, mechanics that you use similarly, even if you value different things as too similar or something. But he just won't care about that. So I don't really see where that's going to go.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
all just some vague wish-wash. I strongly suspect that this is. I really don't think this is going to be a video worth uploading. It's just so I now I'm totally on board with your assessment of this is just. Like,
Well, I'll still upload it. Don't cut out my content.
Well, you can upload it if you want to. Sure.
Yeah. All right. Cool.
I'm trying to. I think I'm understanding what you're getting at. Okay. I'm going to try to rephrase your argument and tell me if this is what you're saying, okay? All right? Okay. I think you're trying to say that I have a position on veganism versus non-veganism. And part of this ultimately would reduce down to an argument related to name the trait. And my justification for killing animals versus not killing humans would be that I would name some trait that you would say that if you would explore through argumentation, you'd find this ultimately an arbitrary distinction.
No, not that I would think, that either you from your own view or anybody else can
Sure,
judge
anybody
it.
logically sure would say this. Okay.
What's that?
Anybody logically parsing the statements or anybody?
No, there's a big distinction there because you might just say, well, that's from your own vegan perspective. But if it hinges on the core values that you already have regarding human rights and it starts from a human and says at what point is moral value lost, you don't get out of that by saying that I already value animals because it doesn't start from that. It would be true of your own view that if you said, again, I took the little beat detector and found out that Destiny was an android, that would...
Like, ColdPoison is just doing way too much. Like, often saying less is more powerful than saying a lot. There's this impulse to say a ton of shit when someone says something that, comes up against your view or something like that. But there's way more power in saying less, okay? It's one thing if you're doing a meandering fucking debate review or something like what we're doing right now. But if you're in a debate with somebody, if you're running NTT, they say human, there's a very simple response. Okay, I scan you with the gene scanner, it beeps, same subjective experience, same physiology for all you can tell, cool to stab you in the throat right now, yes or no? Then they answer, and you just go one way or the other. If they say yes, it's just, okay, that's a reductio. I don't think anyone will agree with that. I'll leave people to make of that position what they will. And then if they say no, well, then they seem to have contradicted themselves. So that there's no need to get into all these, like, lengthy fucking, like, I just don't even know what's happening. Like, I mean, maybe it's just how my mind works, but, like, I just hate when things explode like this. Just like more and more and more and more. I want less and less and less and less. Just stay directly on the point and say the smallest thing necessary to communicate the actual point. You don't have to do all this. It's more forceful if the less words and the simpler the words and the more like picture how someone's like, look at when I debate NTT and someone tries to dodge or evade or something like that. You don't hear me go on some fucking massive thing. I mean, I might at some point do some explaining if it looks like we're really stuck, but I'll probably just repeat the question a lot of the time. I'll just be like, okay, well, I heard you say a bunch of stuff there, but I didn't really catch the part where you answered the question. This is the thing I'm asking about. Repeat question. A very, very simple, basic kind of procedure.
Presumably be problematic from your own view.
I mean, maybe. I don't know how we would resolve that. I mean, we can talk about that next.
You say maybe, but is the trait
hold on. You keep trying to. I'm just trying to understand your argument. Okay.
Okay, sure.
So it sounds like you're trying to say that I am using name the trait to draw a distinction between human and non-human, and I'm using that to justify why one is okay and one isn't okay. But that ultimately, if I were to explore that, I wouldn't be able to justify my arguments there. But that if we look at Trump, I'm trying to criticize Trump, and you're saying, well, your criticism of Trump is that he's essentially using like name the trait between immigrants and non-immigrants. Therefore, we're both powering our positions with the same type of argumentation. So how can I criticize one versus
Not the
That's equally vague and fucked to me. I don't know if you find that clear.
No, I actually do find that clear enough. I at least that interpretation as he's saying it.
I don't know what like
He's
powering
trying-
positions and stuff means.
Oh, that part. Yeah, no, that part is vague. But it's basically, I just interpret that as saying we're both doing something similar to differentiate our values, presumably in a way that's like sort of objectionable. And in that way, Trump and I are doing a sort of similar thing.
Both doing something similar to differentiate our values.
Yeah, the things we value.
As in we would both answer NTT in the same kind of way?
Or a similar way. Not the same kind of way.
Okay, so I would understand if Destiny were just to say, your point is that I'm like Trump because we'd answer NTT in the same way. But like, you see how for me it's always
No, in a similar way.
What did I say? Did I say the same?
Same, yeah. Same way.
Similar, sure. You're saying I'm like Trump because we'd answer NTT in a similar way. That, like, just say it like that. Everyone talks, they just say too much in these discussions. It kills me sometimes. Like, just be simple.
I don't know if same type of argumentation means the same underlying logic that attempts to make a
That's
distinction
what
between.
Yes.
Sure, yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. I understand your perspective when it comes to that. We would have to explore, I guess, the vegan side of the argument more. Do you think on a broader level, do you feel like there is a difference between those two types of people, or in your mind is every single non-vegan basically like incapable of logically criticizing like any other non-vegan's
No,
position?
that's a separate question, right? Being able to logically criticize somebody else that's worse than you is distinct from whether or not you succumb to the underlying logic of the other party in question.
Do you think that it might be that one party might be preferable even if they use the same
sure.
underlying
So
logic?
I can understand where, if I understand you correctly, you're trying to say, for example, can a pedophile judge Hitler? Of course they could. For example, somebody who's bad can judge somebody else who's worse, but still operate under some sort of disregard for the rights of other beings. That doesn't really get you out of the position in question. And so all I understand from you so far is I'm very confused.
So then just so we can establish, so I can criticize Trump and I can say that one side, the Democrats, is preferable to the other side.
It was never a matter of if you could say that you could criticize Trump.
Well, sure, then we should be able to say yes, then I can, right? I can, right?
It's if you had a morally relevant distinction.
Okay, but I'm just we have some shared ground. Like we can say that one side is preferable to the other, even if both are non-vegan.
We've gone through the concept of moral dilemmas, but this is a matter of moral sufficiency.
I understand that, but I'm just asking the question again. Can we say that we prefer one side over the other, even if both sides are non-vegan, because of other moral positions they might hold that might have some more relevance?
Saying that you have a preference is not the question, though, that was originally posed to you.
No, that's the question I'm asking right now.
Sure.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Is this water available?
Yeah.
Oh,
wait, did you drink it?
No.
Well, I mean, someone else has been drinking it, so.
Thank you.
Okay, so, so then rephrase, catch me up. So what is our disagreement on right now?
Just
You're
say
saying
NTT.
right now that I'm
said
not
that-
able to criticize Trump's position on immigration because we don't have a morally relevant distinction between how I justify non-veganism and how he justifies taking
No,
illegals out
you
of the
could
country.
say that's what caused you to be logically consistent, but it seems that it would make you absurd because you said the trait was species, but then you actually contradicted because you said you're not sure. So is it the trait species that distinguishes the two?
Just stay on this. You're good on this point. This is a good point.
I mean, can't there be, if we're talking about like a category of actions that somebody's taking, there's like a category of actions that would probably be unacceptable against a certain category of thing. It seems like even if me and Trump disagree on
Okay, now we're back to Trump. I don't get it.
how we arrive at a certain place, like we're both using kind of like name the trait. If you're going to say I'm using name the trait, we're both using name the trait to power different types of arguments. Like I feel like your criticism here would be more on the nose if Trump was using name the trait to just like kill illegal immigrants.
Okay, the thing that ColdPoison should say right here is, I'm just asking if you accept the reductio. How many words is that? It's like 5 words or something? Like, I'm just asking if you accept the reductio. It's like 8 words?
No. I'm not saying that the result of the action necessarily means that it's going to be, the removal of the right to life in those situations. That's why I analogize just the stripping away from mothers and children. There's a further problem, of course, of murder and so on. But I just think it's very interesting to focus on the specific concept as it pertains to what I've seen you be passionate about several times, which was, human mothers and children be stripped away and then criticize Trump for it, but then not be able to say what the trait is. Again, you say it's species, but then you don't actually bite the bullet on that.
Well, I mean, I think I would bite the bullet on it, but we would have to explore the other hypothetical you gave more.
But when I took out the beep detector, found out that you were an android, you weren't even sure if you'd find it to be okay
Okay, now we're back to the point.
for you, by your own view, if you were to be killed and eaten.
Well, because I think it would significantly alter the understanding of what it means to be human, and it would probably significantly alter.
Okay, but now we're talking about some different definition of human. He's talking about human as you used human initially. So this is all stuff Destiny will fucking faceplant on, as he's doing right now. This is all very bad, but I just don't trust that we're going to stay on this at all.
The understanding of what I even think of myself. Right?
Is that
would have
just
be
to say,
explored.
yes, you'd be consistent on you being killed?
Yes. See, this is what you should do. It's very simple. You do this. So are you saying yes? Like, this is how simple this kind of dialogue should be.
And eaten for food because we found out that you weren't human?
See how that was nice and simple? Let's just rewatch how simple you can be.
You know, what it means to be human, and it would probably significantly alter the understanding of what I even think of myself. Right?
Is that just to say, yes, you'd be consistent on you being killed and eaten for food because we found out that you weren't human?
See, it's so simple. He's just saying, are you saying yes that you'd be consistent and bite the bullet? Very simple. This is what we should be doing.
I don't know. We would have to explore what that...
I don't know. That's a completely fucking insane answer if he's actually saying that. Obviously, if we were to gene scan you right now, I mean, I don't need to belabor this point, but there's nobody carnist or vegan who fucking agrees with that except some fringe minority of total fucking lunatics.
If you don't know, Destiny, respectfully, if you don't know, then it's not your position.
That's a bit of a miss. If the answer is I don't know, then just reductio, that is a reductio in itself. You don't know if it would be okay to stab you right here, right now, if a little fucking beeper goes off? You think the whole value of your life would just disappear if you heard a little noise? I mean,
wait,
you wouldn't be sure if it does?
Sure, I agree that there's a reductio there, but is it false to say it's not his position if he's saying he doesn't know?
If it is, what's it? Sorry, say that again. If he doesn't know, then
is it false to say it's not his position?
It's not. I think so I agree. It's if someone doesn't know something, you wouldn't say their position is that they do know or something like that. But I think what ColdPoison probably means is that it's your position if I can assume that you accept the entailments of what you said earlier.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
No, what it means is I have to think about it a little bit more before addressing.
But then the trait is
vegan.
not. But then the trait is not species if you're not sure about it. That's a contradiction.
I understand that you can say these words because you've ran down these arguments 50 trillion.
This is trash. I hate when Destiny does this. I understand that this is all just rhetoric, garbage, total fucking bullshit. ColdPoison made a fair point there. What did he say?
A little bit more before addressing.
But then the trait is
vegan.
not. But then the trait is not species.
Right. If Destiny doesn't say, if he's not going to accept the consequence there, then he's not. It's not the case that he's holding the position that the trait is species. Right. It's like if that was your position, you'd accept this consequence. You don't accept this consequence, so that's not your position. That's a contradiction with what you said earlier. It's completely fine. Now, I understand not like needling the fuck out of someone on contradictions and just being like, you could say something like, okay, well, if you were really committed to what you originally said in its sort of most naive form, that would be a contradiction. Like, you can phrase it charitably, but what ColdPoison is doing here is fine. Fundamentally what he's doing is he's pointing out, you said this thing, it has this consequence, but you don't accept the consequence. So there's some kind of problem there, right? That's right. And for Destiny to just get mad at recognizing little bits of language like contradiction and feeling like he's getting boxed in and lashing out like that is all. I hate that so much. Like, I hate the stuff he does where he gets mad at words like internal critique or he gets mad at words like contradiction. Like, just fucking stop that. It's childish. It's silly. Just deal with what's actually said. Do you accept the consequence or not? If you don't, just say, yeah, okay, that would contradict the thing I said earlier. That's not my view. It's very simple. Don't do the thing where you misfire and start targeting completely legitimate philosophical concepts. That is silly. I assume you agree with all of that, right?
I agree with all of that.
If you're not sure about it. That's a contradiction.
I understand that you can say these words because you've ran down these arguments 50 trillion times in the vegan Discord server.
And this is all rhetoric. It's a vegan Discord server. It's all framing ColdPoison like he's some kind of like autistic fucking Discord loser or something like that who's just come with some like unfair tactic, and all of that is just rhetoric. That's all just framing. Like, the framing could just as easily be ColdPoison is just a passionate advocate for other sentient beings who he cares about. He's thought about the philosophy, he has an angle, and he wants Destiny to respond to it, and Destiny doesn't have a good response to it. I think that's a more accurate framing, frankly. So I really hate I get annoyed with it. I don't like when people start doing the rhetoric thing instead of actually addressing what's being said.
Because Isaac and Vegan Gains have trained you. What I'm saying is that ran down these arguments.
Oh, Isaac and Vegan Gains have trained you. Yeah, I mean, well, ColdPoison is a longtime server member, so I'm sure that he's been heavily influenced by me. I can't say I've ever trained him. But why am I catching strays? Why is it that you're complaining about me and vegan gains? Like, why don't you just actually have a response to the kind of things we say instead of just throwing shit at us? I don't throw shit at you for no fucking reason. Like, if someone comes in and runs some fucking Destiny argument, I just listen to the argument and address what's being said.
Trillion times.
I find this irritating because I've been friendly to him for like years. Like, I'll reach out here or there with little things, or like after Andrew gave him trouble on the insurrection stuff, I went and had a conversation with him and tried to give him sort of like an angle on how I would deal with some of that stuff. Like, I mean, and I even like, quote, like behind his back, if you read like conversations I have with you or like in the server or something when Destiny comes up, I don't just like shit on Destiny the way that he always does with me. I say what my criticisms are. I don't like certain things about how he affects the debate space. I don't like when he hates on philosophical concepts. I don't like that he supports the animal holocaust. But I don't just fire these like petty little personal shots at him all the time. I really dislike that. It's like, I don't do that to you. Can you please stop doing that to me?
No. It's
Discord
like,
server,
if you
because
think
Isaac
I'm,
and Vegan
if
Games
you
have trained
think
you.
it's
What I'm
false,
saying is that, like,
if,
I'm not
no,
going to sit here and
Destiny,
own.
you're trying to gain
and
rhetorical ground.
No,
If you
hold on.
think
I'm not
it's
getting. Hold on. You've been screaming the entire conversation. Okay, chill. Okay,
Screaming?
All I'm saying, well, no, but you're like rattling off like all of the hardcore fucking debater vegan
Okay, well,
points.
then
Like,
make it just-
It's not a hardcore fucking debater. It's just you said something and then didn't accept the consequence. And he's pointing it out. There's nothing crazy. Like, I'm sure you agree, Avi, that this kind of...
Yeah.
So this is the kind of stuff, when I initially reacted, I don't think I came in at this point. I think I came in a bit later. But I came into a bunch of this, and I was like, oh, ColdPoison just annihilating Destiny. That was my reaction when I saw it initially. Obviously, there's all this stuff at the start, which I now agree with you. The start is totally fucked. The framing's fucked. ColdPoison's oscillating all over the place. And some of that might not totally be his fault. It might be that he's like sort of cucked by the framing and feels a need to be split like that across topics. I mean, I would think through the topic more carefully to avoid that. But yeah, shit like this, as far as I can tell, when it actually just ends up clearly on the NTT rails, Destiny just gets totally obliterated. I'm leaving. I'm leaving you.
I want to see. I want to see. No, but I want to see. I'm trying to. I want to get to the point where that happens, and I want to see how each different thing is addressed.
Okay, you do see so far that it's happening, though, right?
Well, I do see so far that it's happening. Well, right now there's rhetoric and stuff, but yes, I agree.
Yeah, and that rhetoric is in response to a legitimate question and evasion of the actual question, which is, as far as I'm concerned, getting obliterated.
Yes.
distinction there.
I don't know if I can at this point in time. I'm not
I
prepared
know
to
you
have a
can't make a
hardcore
moral
debate.
distinction with regards to the rights of life of humans and animals, so you can't make it just.
Well, no, I can make the moral distinction
that
that I consider the life of humans to be life that should be protected, but I don't consider the life of animals to be protected.
That's just
That's not the distinction. That's the initial setup of the question. He's trying to ask you what it is that accounts for that.
circular. So I'm wondering what the trait is.
Well, it's not circular. It's axiomatic. It's just foundation.
It's not right to call it. Sorry, this is the kind of stuff I can just jump in on like infinitely. It's not exactly right to call it circular. It's uninformative. It's restating things that we already know from the initial setup. We know that you value one and not the other. We're asking what accounts for it. And if you reply to that by saying, "Well, I value one and not the other," it's not that it's circular.
No, he didn't say one and not the other. He said human. He just restated the trait.
Did I misunderstand him?
Well, no, I can make the moral
Yeah.
distinction that I
Yeah.
consider the life of humans to be life that should be protected,
Yeah.
but I don't consider the life of animals to be protected.
That's just
Yeah, he said human versus animal.
Okay, I'm trying to think of if so you can okay, that's fair. So either you can so okay, I'm thinking also, are you just repeating things that are already in the question? But so if the question is humans, animals, one's okay to kill, one's not, what's the distinction? Yeah, so you could be repeating the distinction and saying the distinction is that one's human and one's not human.
I don't think. I think he's saying the morally relevant difference is human.
Yes. So I'm just teasing out the two things that are different that could be said. So one of them is you could be just repeating the trait and saying being human is the distinction, or you could be saying something uninformative, which is just announcing that you have a different evaluation in the two cases. and we'll play it back. You might be right about which he's doing. I might have jumped the gun there. We'll just see.
You should play the question as well.
Sure.
It's a convenient game to train you. What I'm saying is that, like, I'm not going to sit here and own.
You're trying to gain rhetorical ground.
No, hold on. I'm not gaining. Hold on. You've been screaming the entire conversation. Okay, chill. Okay.
Screaming?
Well, no, but you're like rattling off like all of the hardcore fucking debater vegan points,
well,
like
make a
crazy.
distinction there.
I don't know if I can at this point in time. I'm not
I
prepared
know
to
you
have a
can't make a
hardcore
moral
debate.
distinction with regards to the rights of life of humans and animals, so you can't make it just.
Well, no, I can make the moral distinction that I consider the life of humans to be life that should be protected, but I don't consider the life of animals to be protected.
Okay, so I'm hearing that like it's uninformative, but I understand how you're interpreting it.
Make the morally relevant distinction between humans and animals, and he's saying, okay, well, I think humans should be protected and animals should not. I take that to be like, okay, well, the difference is human.
Do you understand the case where I would be saying that's uninformative?
Yes, I do.
Which is just
the morally relevant distinction is the morally relevant. The morally relevant distinction between human and animals is the morally relevant distinction between human and animals.
No.
Or something like that.
Not even stating the distinction. You could be just restating stuff that's contained in the question, like that.
Right.
You have a different evaluation in the two cases.
Yeah.
Rather than the thing that accounts for your different evaluation is one.
But I think in the whole context of this conversation, which he already said previously, he gave the same answer as human. I think it's pretty consistent that he's giving an informative answer.
Yeah.
And it's not contained in the question.
Sorry, I just want to make sure. So I'm fine with that interpretation, but you understand the distinction I'm drawing, where in one case you're saying, I could say that I value one.
I absolutely understand the distinction you're making.
Okay, so for people listening then, I could understand a distinction that, so it would be uninformative if someone were just to say, well, I value one and I don't value the other. Or like I've said that I value humans and I don't value animals or something like that. You could see that as just a restating of things that are contained in the question. But also, and these things are similar, which is why it's easy to kind of not know which is which, you could also be saying the thing that accounts for the value difference is being human. And that's not uninformative. That's just repeating the trait that he gave earlier. And I will watch it one more time because I'm not totally sure which is happening. It might be ambiguous, and I'm happy to just give him the charitable interpretation.
Distinction that I consider the life of humans to be life that should be protected, but I don't consider the life of animals to be protected.
It's just not obvious which is the right interpretation to me there, but I'm happy to just do the charitable one. So I don't know if he's naming a trait there, if he's repeating his trait and saying human is the trait, or if he's just restating the information contained in the initial question, which is just that he has a different moral evaluation of one and the other.
I understand the difference between those interpretations. I just think one is a lot more likely than the other. Which is the informative one. He's restating what he already said before, that he is naming a trait and it is not contained in the question.
I'm happy to go with that one. I don't really know that it's more plausible, but let me just think about it one more time. I just need to hear
make a moral distinction with regards to the rights of life of humans and animals, so you can't make it just.
Well, no, I can make the moral distinction that I consider the life of humans to be life that should be protected, but I don't consider the life of animals to be protected.
That's just
the moral distinction: the life of humans versus the life of animals.
Yeah, I'm happy to interpret it that way. It seems more charitable to interpret it that way, so I'll go that way. I don't know. I guess I'm not totally sure if that is the right interpretation, but it doesn't really matter because I'm sure that if you prompt him, he will agree that that's what he's saying because we've heard him answer explicitly when he's stating what the trait is. So we know that that's the trait. Yeah, I don't have anything else to say about that.
That's circular, so I'm wondering what the trait is.
Well, it's not circular; it's axiomatic. It's just foundational, right? I value.
So yeah, whether it's circular. So this is why I said it's circular because if you interpret that like he's, or why I said it's just uninformative. If you interpret it like he's just restating the fact that there's one case where he values them and one where he doesn't, then he is just restating stuff that's in the question. But if you interpret it like he's saying the thing that accounts for the difference is one being human and the other not, then it's not circular, but it is repeating something that's been said earlier. Which is not necessarily
to a question. It's not a problem. The question was repeated.
Right. Yeah. If you literally ask the same question, you're going to get the same answer. Yes. Okay, that's fine.
Human life. Some people value greater than human life, right? I don't know if you can justify that.
If you're trying to say it's irreducible, and you have some sort of virtue that says that you just care about the species in question, right? Like it could be axiomatic, but it still has to be something true of the being in question. Because otherwise, if it was the same being and you had a difference of attitude, that would be contradictory. Like, how would you distinguish if you were blindfolded whether or not you would kill one set of being versus the other? You wouldn't just say it's axiomatic.
We don't need to do any of this. Like we can again just go like he said human, so. I mean, if you can just go off that and then give the reductio, or if you're not sure whether it was the informative one or the uninformative one, you can just say, to be clear, you think the morally relevant difference is being human. But either way, once you get a yes to that, then just continue with the reductio. There's no need to go into any like side stuff or further explanation.
There'd have to be something that was described.
Wait, I don't even understand what the purpose of that question is. That could be applied to two humans, and you might be able to not distinguish it if you're blindfolded. How does that?
With regards to whether or not you find it acceptable to take their life.
How could, if you're blindfolded, you don't even have the ability to gather enough?
You have the traits described to you. So if you just said it's axiomatic, and I said that, well, I don't know which being to kill by means of your own view, what do I do? And you just say, kill the one that's human, that's effectively just reducible to you saying it's because of their species. So that's going to reduce down to some thing.
Why does it have to reduce down to anything?
Yeah, this is all, there's no need to, all this, just fuck all this. There's no need for any of this.
Because if you were talking about the same object and you had a difference of attitude, then it would be a contradiction. It's like
it doesn't have. Wait. Why can't a thing just be in the same category of objects? Like I can talk about two different humans without having to morally distinguish one category of human from another category of human.
If you were talking about the same context of the removal of rights, but you had a difference of attitude, or you claimed to have a difference of attitude, but you said that there was no morally relevant distinction between the two, that's the contradiction.
I don't understand how there could be a contradiction. I can have different human beings that are all human beings that have different categories of rights.
So say that there's two beings that are in front of you, and I ask you, which one would you find to be acceptable to kill? One's a human, one's a cow. And you just say you just value the one, not the other. It's going to beg the question of what about the being that would cause you to say that.
Yeah, so I see how he's interpreting it. He's interpreting it like it's uninformative. And I don't think that that's an unreasonable interpretation. I could see that. But the better way to clear this up is just to go, look, are you just restating the fact that you value one and not the other? Or are you saying the thing that accounts for that is that one is human?
I see they're talking
right?
past each other, based on a different interpretation.
One has.
And also, ColdPoison's interpretation isn't unreasonable. Like, I understand you think yours is more plausible, but like that was the one that I sort of jumped to also. There's something about how he phrased it there that made it sound a bit like he was just reiterating the fact that there's a different value assessment for the two of them rather than... Yeah, so...
I'll be honest, I guess I understand how they can... I'll be honest, I did not come to that interpretation. Like, I didn't even think of it.
No, when you said your interpretation, I was like, okay, yeah, you could also totally read it like that. And that actually might be I mean, it's certainly the more charitable one, but whether it's the more plausible one, I'm not 100% sure. It could be. But either way, regardless of all of that, the point is just, I can understand ColdPoison having the interpretation that he has, and whichever one you have, just the way to proceed here is just clarify what he's doing. Like, to be clear, you're saying the morally relevant distinction is being human. And then you're just back to the point,
Yeah.
Sure, the fact that one is a human and one isn't.
So the trait is species, then?
Sure, yeah.
Belonging to the hoping... You just said that it wasn't your trait, but again, if I took out the beep detector...
I never said that it wasn't my trait.
You said you weren't sure about it, and or something like that. And what ColdPoison should have done there is just said, oh, so, okay, if I scan you with the beep detector, you're not sure if it's okay to stab you in the throat, which is a reductio in itself. You don't need Destiny to say it would be okay. You just need him to say anything other than that it wouldn't be okay. Because the only position here that's not going to seem fucking insane to everybody is that the only position that's not going to seem insane is it's not okay to stab me if the beeper goes off.
I'm saying that I can still draw a distinction between two humans without having to say that it's a contradiction because I'm recognizing them.
This is all beside the point. Like, again, I grant that the point has gotten fucked around quite a lot here, but like whether you can distinguish between humans and blah blah blah, all this, it's just, that's not really, like, the point is just like, you say species means gene scanner reductio, you don't accept gene scanner reductio, so it can't be that you're actually holding the view that species is the trait.
Might be different rights between two different humans.
No. The concept isn't if one has more or less moral value. It's with regards to, again, the same exact context of the removal of the moral value of the beings. So it's you could.
Trump is not removing the moral value of any beings, though. I don't understand the comparison there.
Wait. He absolutely would be if he's. You just said it yourself earlier,
no, this is
right?
the thing I was pointing out earlier.
Undocumented. You said undocumented immigrant or people are having their rights removed, and that's not happening to people who are documented or.
Yeah, but they're not having all of their rights removed. Trump is still treating them as he would treat.
Did I analogize all the rights?
Yeah, yes, that was the distinction we were literally just talking about 2 seconds ago.
I don't know if that was intentional or not, but I clearly said with regards to stripping away children from their mothers.
Then what is your issue with what I just said 3 seconds earlier? So then we agree that Trump is not stripping away all of their rights, correct?
I really hate that there's this Trump thread, and like I guess that when the topic is so blurry, it's fair to just keep like jumping back to it and flipping around. But I'm repeating myself. Just the way this should have been set up is just from the start, just be clear about NTT, and then all this stuff, just call it a dismissal and just get a clear answer to the question.
I didn't just say all the rights. I said with regards to
Sorry, don't call it a dismissal. Dismiss it as irrelevant.
the situations of where mothers are being stripped away from their children.
Okay.
So I said 5,000 at the beginning.
Okay.
That happened
So
between
back me up. So what is our disagreement then on this?
your attempt to try to justify the distinction between yourself and Trump is apparently you're confused on if that's species or not. So I don't know how you really distinguish yourself from this guy that you're going on a whole anti-Trump.
So I don't understand how I can't say that Donald Trump doles out different sets of rights to different groups of humans that I don't agree with.
No. You keep saying you don't understand how you can't say something.
I don't understand.
That's a modal
morally
term.
relevant distinction between how Trump doles out rights to somebody and how I would dole out rights to
What
somebody.
was the first part?
I don't understand how we can't. There's not a morally relevant distinction between how the two of us assign rights to different categories of people.
Do you think there is one?
Yeah.
Is it belong to the species human?
No, I don't think. No, not generally.
So then, what is the trait then?
Well, it would be like immigration status or nationality or skin color sometimes.
Yeah, so if somebody looked at Destiny and looked at Trump and said that the reason why you excluded one set of beings and he excluded one set of beings was because in his sense he said nationality, the arbitrarity of the moral value in question from one set of beings versus another, I think to any other being would say if they looked at the immigrants in question and said, oh, they found out tomorrow that they weren't actually belong to the species Homo sapien because the beep detector went off or their mind was transferred into another being.
We're not talking at the level of species though.
It would be if that's your justification. You said that's the thing that distinguishes you and Trump, such that if someone were to look at Destiny, they should view you morally distinct from Trump because this is how you draw your exclusion versus how he draws his exclusion.
Yeah, but I don't understand what the problem is there.
I'm sure you wouldn't, just like how a slave owner wouldn't understand what the problem is.
But the slave owner would see the
if it's
distinction.
axiomatic and it's irreducible to just not, like Nick Fuentes, like when Vegan Gains asked you, like, you just value white people with blue eyes. I mean, yeah, you just value that. But I highly doubt that, right? Because, again, when I made it very abundantly clear and said my beep detector went off and you're an android, you then got all, oh, I don't know if I would be okay with being killed and eaten for food.
Well, no, it would probably radically redefine how I would view that category of thing, so it's hard to imagine that thing.
Then
That's a miss.
it's not
Okay, yeah. Okay, so this is important to note. Yeah, so So I want to see. So that move to say, okay, well, if that scenario obtained, I would the category. I would change my understanding of the category of that thing. But that's just the change. That's just to say that whatever was encompassed before, that's to grant that's whatever is encompassed before actually.
Well, it's to not answer it. I mean, I get it's fair to assume, like, obviously just using basic human fucking like reading other people, like the reason that he's switching it is because he's not comfortable with the answer. So I totally agree there, but if we're being like technical, it's just not answering the question. It's just now you're talking about some different notion of human.
The answer would be no, I would not be okay with it, and upon reflection I would I would expand my notion of human.
Right.
Because, presumably because I wouldn't be okay with it.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Well, I'll let you say more, but the only thing I want to say here is just like he gives human notion one has uncomfortable consequence that leads him to think he wants to alter his notion of human. That's fine, but just grant that the trait isn't human notion one, and then if you want, you can put human notion two on the table as the trait.
Sure. Yeah. I want to see the. Yeah, go ahead.
Some people get fucked by that though, and they kind of vegans think of it all like one trait, and then they're like, oh, but the reductio like didn't work or something, and it's like, no, it's just the trait changed. So the first trait that didn't work, and now there's another one, human one and human two.
All right, let's see if.
Well, you were going to say more, weren't you? Were you going to say something about this at the start? I said it's a miss, and then it sounded like you had a bunch to say about it.
No, I do have a bunch to say, but I don't want to say everything. I mean, I made a whole post about it, but I don't want to go into all that yet. I want to see if this gets. I just want to analyze the debate.
Sure. You want to press it? You want me to press it?
Not the case that it causes a reduction of moral value, is it?
Well,
So then it's
nobody
not
has
the
ever
trait.
been measured with a gene detector and been found to have not had human genes. So I mean, like, it's
Wait, what?
Nobody's been measured with a.
And this is, of course, completely
Yeah,
irrelevant. I mean, what do you want?
Right.
You want to say it? You can say it.
Yeah. No, the hypothetical being, the thought experiment being posed, the purpose of the thought experiment, the question being posed is not for you to evaluate how many times it obtained in the real world. That's just not, so any answer about how many times it obtained in the real world is not answering the question.
Yeah, we're not talking about how many times it's happened. We're not talking about how likely it is to occur. We're talking about what would you do in the case that it does occur.
Right.
Gene beep detector.
That's a
and it's been-
hypothetical denial.
No, what?
You said nobody's been measured with a gene detector, and I'm asking you.
Now,
Yeah. So this is what I was.
He's
This is the point where I was talking about. Like he's completely right, but the way he framed it is not it's not landing for them.
It's
or
inside
Destiny
language.
himself.
It's like when
Yeah.
a white nationalist talks about fucking. I'm not remembering the dog whistles right now. What's a fucking white nationalist dog whistle?
They.
Yeah, they. Right. Like it's almost as if there's some group of people who are sort of controlling what's. It's like all the white nationalists know what you mean. Now I don't mean to compare vegans to white nationalists, but we all know what you mean because we all know what hypothetical denial is, right? We're obviously talking about hypothetical box, like, which, by the way, hypo denial or hypo evasion or whatever you want to call it is, if you're doing that in 2025, that is cringe. That is unbelievably cringe. It is such a basic philosophical fail that to do that is it's embarrassing, and it's also usually an announcement of defeat because it basically always occurs because you're getting pwned by some kind of hypothetical. I've never seen someone just deny or evade a hypothetical for no particular reason. Like, you can ask people pretty out there hypotheticals, like if you found yourself on Mars and you had like a helmet on and like 20 minutes of oxygen and like what would you try to do or something like that? Like, people start answering, right? Like, people don't mind these kind of things. No one does this. The times when they do this is when the hypothetical makes them feel uncomfortable. So yeah, it's a really cringe thing. It's obviously motivated by getting boxed in by the hypothetical and not knowing how to respond to it. And it's just a really basic fail that to do it in 2025 as a prominent debater is just, oh boy, heavy cringe levels.
If it were the
Yeah.
case that they were.
If somebody asks me how many different, like, what different types of bathrooms should be in a theater, and I say
Okay,
male and
so-
female, and you say, so you believe that there are two genders, and I go, yes, so you would only have two bathrooms, and I go, yeah, and it's like, what if I had a gene detector or some magical thing, and now I found out that there were 10 genders, and I go, okay, well then I guess I would have 10 bathrooms, and then you go, oh, so then you wouldn't have two bathrooms.
What is it you think
Well, of
I'm
course
analogizing?
Well, notice how that's
analogizing.
actually answering the hypothetical.
Right. I was about to say that's not a hypothetical denial. Right. The actual analogy would be, well, why don't we do it, Avi? What would you do if it turned out that we do some genetic analysis or whatever, and there's actually a third gender in terms of bathrooms?
Well,
What
we've
would you
never, we've never seen an example where there was a genetic analysis for a third gender. That's never happened.
Right. That's what the hypo evasion or hypo denial would be. So what Destiny just did, which obviously is the natural thing he does because he's not an idiot, right? I think only really low IQ people like actually can't understand hypotheticals. Is even when he tried to give the analogy, the case where like he's doing some other hypothetical or something, he still actually just ended up answering the hypothetical because that is obviously the normal, correct, right fucking thing to do.
Well, you're saying that there's some beep detector, then I would find out that I am somehow not belonging to the species of human or whatever. That would radically probably redefine the way that I view that category, and so I would have to reconsider a lot of my.
That's just human 1, human 2 again. It's just not answering on the initial notion.
I want to see if that gets caught though. Human 1, human 2.
Yep.
I guess moral considerations for it.
So then you wouldn't name the trait belonging to the Homo sapien species then as
No,
the
I
reason
would
why.
because that's never been a thing that's been contradicted in the category
But you
of
can
Homo sapien
posit the
species.
thought experiment, just like how, again, if the Black Rights Act
Destiny is totally confused here. Like, what ColdPoison is saying is correct. It doesn't. All of this stuff about whether it's happened is totally irrelevant. If you don't accept that hypothetical, then that's not the trait, unless your view is contradictory, which presumably you don't
he's
want
not.
to have.
He didn't exactly phrase it as Homo sapiens 1, Homo sapiens 2, because the response would just be, "Well, I broadened my understanding of Homo sapiens." I just want to see if it clearly gets caught out as like you're using two different.
Yeah. I understand what you're looking for. I'm just getting triggered by Destiny's like bad responses and wanting people to see how he's not really like. And he's not understanding what's happening or responding in a legitimate way. I'll back up a bit, though.
Thing that's been contradicted in the category
But you
of
can
Homo sapiens
posit the
species.
thought experiment, just like how, again, if the black rights activist, and I was in 1852,
Just
along with
because I can
Frederick
posit
Douglass,
the thought experiment doesn't justify it in real life if the thing never actually comes to fruition.
those are the logical consequences of your view. If the white person's consciousness was transferred into the black person's,
And also this justify it in real life thing. I all of that is just confusing language. The point is just that if you don't accept that hypothetical, then like the view is, well, I mean, it depends exactly how you state it, but it's basically contradictory. Like if you say this, I don't need to fucking repeat
Yeah, you don't have to. We don't have
works.
to. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's the point. It's not about in real life this blah 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 that. No, it's just if you say the trait is this and then you don't accept the consequence of that, then you've not got a consistent position. The consistent position would be to accept the consequence.
consciousness, and they were to say to me, well, that's not of the real world, this, that, or the other, and they tried to escape from it, or if the woman was to say it to the man, if the person who is exploiting Jews were to say, hey, don't put them in a concentration camp because of that, and they tried to run away from it because they said, well, it's not of the real world, guys. I know you love to posit that to your audience to reject hypotheticals.
But those things are, I don't reject hypotheticals.
You do. You just did. You said that doesn't happen in the real world.
I'm not rejecting your hypothetical. You're rejecting my answer to the hypothetical by saying I'm avoiding the hypothetical.
This is all just total fucking confusion. By rejecting the hypothetical, he's basically meaning in one way, or ColdPoison is meaning in one way or another, avoiding actually answering the hypothetical. And Destiny seems to be saying that he did answer the hypothetical, but he didn't. He just said that his notion of human would change or something, which isn't actually answering the initial hypothetical. It's just giving us some further information and changing the trait.
You're telling me that if you could scan a magical device on me, and it would show that I'm
also the cheap shots of magical trying to somehow cast shade on the hypothetical, more rhetorical garbage here.
That's the rhetoric right there. You said magical device.
And ColdPoison correctly calling out the rhetoric. This is good.
that if you could scan a magical device on me, and it would show that I'm
that's the rhetoric right there. You said magical device.
This would be a magical device.
What's the...
He knows what he's implying when he says magical. I don't buy this at all. This is obvious to you, right? What he's doing with the word magical.
You can have a future scientific like technology. It's not doesn't require magic.
No, and Destiny being willing to acknowledge that. Okay, yeah, technically it's scientific, or it would be magic. Like all of this is just, look. The reason you said magical the first time was to make the hypothetical seem silly or something like that, because it has a consequence that makes you look silly. So you're trying to pass the silly buck to someone else, basically.
I'm sorry. A scientific device that measures me, something that delivers.
How about just instead of giving any cute words on the side, you actually...
You literally called it a gene beeper, didn't you? What do you mean?
Is that the point of fixation with regards to...
I'm not fixating on it. I was trying to get to the hypothetical.
This is exactly Trump antics.
Okay.
Hey, look,
this is vegan server antics, but okay, it is.
My point.
I really don't like all this. I mean, Destiny is doing a rhetorical thing to make the hypothetical seem silly or something like that, so people don't take it seriously. ColdPoison is just going, well, no. I mean, it's just a fine question, and Destiny's blowing that off as vegan server antic, which is more just rhetorical nonsense. Like, just address the question, and don't try to fucking like poison the well on the question or some weird shit like that.
What I'm saying is that if you could measure me and it turns out that I belong to a totally different species, then that would probably radically alter the way that I view that.
He's just miss after miss after miss on this topic.
Category of human being. And so
now you're equivocating off of the point in time.
Hold on, I'm going to finish.
Ooh, equivocating off of the point in time. So that's what I'm talking about. So ColdPoison is not being clear when he says that, but I know what he means there, which is at point in time 1, you have notion 1 of human. At point in time 2, you have notion 2 of human. And at point in time 1 was what I asked the question with respect to. So don't answer from another time frame. Answer from the initial time frame where you had the definition that I was talking about when I delivered the reductio. So you understand, regardless of whether he's pointing out human 1 and 2 as like he should just say you're changing definition. I'm talking about on the initial definition. Do you accept blah 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 on the initial one? You can change it if you want. Blah blah blah.
Right. I just want to see if that ever gets said.
Right, but you can tell that again. It's
I know what he's trying to do. But in fairness, because if I never heard this, I want to see if the response is
clear
being made.
Clear to an outsider is what you're looking for.
Yeah.
So I agree. I just want between you and I that we both understand that ColdPoison is saying the right thing. He's just definitely not saying it as well as he could, but he does have the point. He clearly understands that it's two different notions at two different times, and he's asking about the first one. That seems obviously to me where he's coming from.
Yeah, I know he's trying to do that. Yeah.
Human being,
and so now you're equivocating off of the point in time.
Hold on, I'm going to finish this. When I say when that beeper were to beep me and I were to be non-human, it would radically alter the way that I would define that category. And
am I asking that?
And then it would probably, and then all of the morality that is entailed by my understanding of that category would also probably necessarily cascadingly change.
If I understand that correctly, you don't understand the hypothetical because I'm asking you now what your current preferences are. So if you were to look at that version of yourself, would it be okay? I'm not asking once the beep detector were to go off, would that version of you then change? You can think of it now. I can hypothesize, hey, later I'm going to go to the store and pick out cherry versus blueberry soda. Like, you can just posit the hypothetical and imagine that version of yourself. But we're asking the current version of you.
Yeah, but
Yeah, so it would be nicer to talk about human 1 and 2, but that is reasonably clear. I agree it might not be clear enough for... I don't know if it's clear enough for outsiders, but it's definitely getting there. We agree it's like getting there, right?
It seems to be in response to a different, like, I understand. Yeah, so it's sort of the response where it's like, oh well, it's the appropriate response to if my values changed response, which it kind of is, but it's only changing in virtue of broadening the scope of a definition, and so the precise way to do it is definition 1 versus definition 2.
Yeah,
human 1, human 2, homosexual.
Yeah, you don't need this proxy layer of like the human you, Destiny, who uses a definition at a given point in time. Like, I get that that's I understand. Like at this time he uses this definition, at this later time he uses a different one. We're asking the you at this time using this definition, but why even bring in the destinies and the time and stuff? Just point out like, look, there's two notions, and I'm asking on the notion that you gave me.
Yeah.
Hypothetical to some extent is absurd because you're posing.
There we go. There's a hypothetical that I was waiting for. So go ahead.
Okay, I would say that my feelings of the hypothetical is absurd is because you're implying some abstract.
And for the record, Destiny uses words like absurd in ways that make absolutely no sense to me at all. Is he saying that the hypothetical is contradictory or something like that? Like he throws out these like vague, negative-sounding words that don't clearly undermine anything that the other party is doing. So it's another one of these like pseudo-philosophical bullshit tactics that I see him deploy when this kind of stuff comes up.
Thing that can emerge from something that I would say is impossible for it to emerge from. It's like a logical impossibility.
So, okay, go
ahead. Yeah.
He better respond with...
Yeah, it's not. What's the contradiction?
Yes, absolutely. Do you have?
But I understand the move that's being made. There's a move that he's trying. He's wrong, but he's confused. But the move he's trying to make is like it's sort of the way that it was phrased like 20 minutes ago, which was he's trying to make it is like, oh, your hypothetical is basically saying I'm a human non-human. Well, no, it's not saying I'm a human non-human. Saying you're a human 2, not a human 1.
That's right. Yeah, that's perfectly well said. Yeah, so I understand the move he's trying to make. I understand that it looks contradictory if you kind of think of these all as one notion and erase the distinction, and then you have two different notions, and then you're saying you are one and not the other, but they're actually one notion, so you are the thing and you aren't the thing. That can't be right. But yeah, that's not what's happening, and it's not impossible. And let's just see if ColdPoison gets this right.
So on what modality is it impossible? You said logical, right?
So this is okay. He could have jumped to the logical modality there, but I actually kind of understand not doing that. It's fine to do the modal 3-step there. What's the modality? What's the contradiction under said modality? How do you derive the contradiction from the propositions that I've put on the table? So that's basically what he's about to do. Which again, Destiny hates things like this. He hates things like this completely fucking illegitimately. He has no actual ability to show any kind of logical or epistemic problem with this. He has no way of showing that it's in violation of any kind of widely held norm about how debates should be conducted or anything like that. It's just a thing that is technical and that boxes him in sometimes, and he lashes out emotionally at it in a way that makes absolutely no fucking sense. Which is part of his position that I hate. Just do the logic thing you do all the time. Just don't do this shit some of the time, because it just triggers the fuck out of me.
That there's no way that a human being like me can emerge from something that is not like a human understanding of our DNA or whatever.
Wait. The impossible.
That was incredibly vague.
Oh, well, that actually sounds like he's saying it's physical impossibility now.
Yeah, emerge sounds like physical, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Ability is logical, you said, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and then I'm sorry. What's the claim that's specifically logically impossible?
The abstraction
Okay, so we're on step 2 of the modal 3 step. What's the contradiction?
of a human being emerges necessarily from the underlying genetic stuff that makes up humans, however you want to define that.
Okay, that's not a
Let's see
logical
how
contradiction. So that's sorry.
I was being maybe too charitable. You might have had somewhere to go with physical, but maybe I don't think that would have worked either. But definitely not logical.
No, that definitely not.
The abstract. I'm trying to understand.
And we both understand. This goes without saying, but just for people listening, obviously that was not a contradiction. What he just said there.
Yeah.
The abstraction of a human being emerges from what?
From our DNA.
So you're just trying to say you can't imagine an alternate being that looks like you but doesn't have human species?
I'm saying that it doesn't seem to be a thing that's part of that category of human being.
Of the human
Categories sounds like logical impossibility.
Yeah, I mean that's your trait, right? It's stipulated that they don't have the species human. So, but your problem was that it was a logical impossibility. That doesn't encapsulate a logical impossibility if you can imagine the being.
No, but it would radically change the way that I would view that category, and there would be a bunch.
Okay, but Destiny, you just said no, so there's your response out the window. You can't avoid the question now by saying it's impossible, so we're back to the question.
Of other cascading effects that would come from that.
But Destiny, that's not a logical impossibility.
No, but it would. I'm just saying that.
But you just claimed it was.
Okay.
Okay, there's no need to needle that also for ColdPoison. He grants that it's not, so just return to the question. Okay, if it's not logically impossible, then answer the question. It was a question he was at, right? He was asking him if he would... Was it that he was asking him if he would be okay with... It was the gene scanner thing, right?
And we go back to the hypothetical, because the impossibility claim was to not answer the hypothetical, so then it's just going back to answering it. Now that impossibility is off the table.
Right. So there's no need to needle him on the you said it's contradictory, now you're saying it's not. It's like it's fine. As long as he's saying it's not, back to the hypothetical. Once he says it is, what's the contradiction? As soon as he says it's not, back to the hypothetical. You can just do the loops there and it's just fine.
If you want to be not like Trump, can you at least concede that?
So it's not about being like Trump. The issue is that like
wait,
because you guys.
So you can.
So just yeah.
You guys, now it's prepare for the vague lash out at every vegan who's ever shown that his position is just fucked and that he's frankly an embarrassment on this topic. Like, look, Destiny can do lots of topics well. I think he's a smart guy. I think that he there's plenty of things he knows far more than me about. I would not be able to even remotely challenge his knowledge of politics, for instance. That said, his performance on the vegan topic has been a ongoing, multi-year long cringe spectacle, and anybody who has a basic understanding of philosophy knows this. Stop lashing out at us. Stop bitching and moaning about how the people who've shown how fucking retarded your position is are big fucking meanies with their big mean logic and logic's things like internal critiques and asking for contradictions when you say things are impossible is all some kind of bullshit. Just stop it. It's pathetic. It's childish. It's time to grow the fuck up.
Okay, so I understand that you guys like to railroad everything down into like these like very, very, very discrete like top logic ones. It's not respectfully. You're not capable of having. The reason my earlier conversation was failing, by the way, is because you have this concept that you learned in the server called morally relevant distinction, and you cannot like fathom anything. That
no,
doesn't,
I understand
like,
that's a funny part because we actually have Destiny's notion of morally relevant distinction and don't really know.
Yeah, I was about to say.
yeah. and the server. It's all, I'm like a demon in his head, and I honestly don't
The
know
server.
the server.
server.
It's all about fucking me on some level, which is very weird. But it's just like, I just hate it. Like, I've been very nice to this guy. We had some early conversations that got heated, and I thought I was under the impression that we get along reasonably well right now. The last time I talked to him was respectful. The time I talked to him before, the last few times over the last few years. But yet, whenever this stuff comes up, he starts talking all this shit about me, and the shit doesn't even make any fucking sense. And I resent it. I really don't like it, and it's not fair, and I wish he'd just stop it.
No, you didn't. You couldn't understand anything. That's why I had to rephrase your argument like 5 times for us to have some type of conversation.
And he also said it's not respectful. I don't think ColdPoison was being disrespectful. He just wants the fucking point answered. I think he's being reasonably respectful. Did I miss him being disrespectful?
I think he's trying to say that the approach is disrespectful. Of like, oh, the whole dialogue tree, railroading down. It's like it makes it so you can't have a respectful discussion or whatever. I thought that's the sort of thing he was getting at.
Oh yeah, and I have no problem with I'm curious for your take on dialogue trees. My basic take is just I have absolutely no problem with a dialogue tree. In fact, dialogue trees are often good ideas, and in fact, Destiny constructs things that are sort of like dialogue trees. Usually, I don't see them actually getting to the point of flowcharts, but like everyone has models of how to proceed in a conversation, what to say if this person says that thing, and someone putting in a lot of work to make it really explicit. Not only is that good for them because they now know exactly what they're doing, it's vulnerable. It makes it very clear what our view is, so you can look at it for yourself and find the exact angle of attack that you want to take. So I'm curious. What's your overall?
My view on dialogue trees is my same view on any other tool. It's about how good the tool is made and how well the person knows how to use it. If you have a tool that's poorly made, it's not going to be good. If you have a tool that's well made, but the person doesn't know how to use it and can't recognize when the tool doesn't apply, it's also not going to be good. But that doesn't mean the tool shouldn't be made and shouldn't be learned how to be used. Good. So there could be cases where you have dialogue trees and someone is just forcing the conversation down inappropriately.
Yes.
And can't see why their response doesn't apply. It's just either because it's a poorly made dialogue tree or it's a poorly made user of the dialogue tree. The person doesn't really know how to use it. So just like any other tool user, that's it.
Right. It's like a tetrachotomy. You got like tree good, use bad, tree bad, use good, tree bad, use bad. And you're saying fuck all the last 3, but the top one is 2 things that are good.
Yep.
Yeah.
Other. But so the issue is that, like, if somebody were to tell me, would you ever recommend drinking a radioactive poison? And I say, well, no, I don't think I would ever recommend that ever.
And also not just can be good. There are clear cases, NTT being an obvious one. NTT run by you, for instance. You use dialogue trees.
Yeah, no. Look, just like, again, tool analogy, tool user. We all agree there's clear cases where there are tools that are made well and that they're also used by people well.
Yeah, no, I understand your core point. I just wanted to, I might have missed something you said, but I just want to make it clear that it's not just a conceivable thing. It's actually a real world thing. And in fact, you are one of the people who is a real world instance of tool built well.
Yeah. I'm just extending the analogy. Like in the real world, there are tools that are made well, used by people well.
Yeah, like yourself, which is just me further extending things. Like, I just want to point that out.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Well, what if radioactive poison was sometimes healthy for you? Then I say, okay, well, then I guess that I would.
I'm not changing. No, I'm not changing the context. It's held constant. So
no, nothing is constant because in my mind right now, my being cannot emerge from a non-human.
Back to the contradiction claim. You said it cannot. So hopefully, ColdPoison right here switches to okay. You just said cannot. What's the modality? So these things are very much about just having a very stable procedure. Destiny's oscillating around because he's trapped right now, right? So he's going to, it's contradictory, or when that doesn't work, he jumps over to something else. But that's fine. If someone's just going to oscillate between a ton of bullshit responses, you're just going to oscillate accordingly between a bunch of good responses to the bullshit responses, right? So if he whenever he jumps to hypothetical impossible, you just go right back to your same point. Oh, what's the modality? And ideally keep it the simplest words, least words possible, because people notice patterns the less the less that's required to notice the pattern, the more able people are to notice it. So if every time Destiny says cannot or impossible or something, ColdPoison says literally the same very simple sentence, people are more likely to start noticing what's happening.
Foundation. That's impossible. You said if it were sometimes acceptable. Was that what analogous to what I said?
What do you mean?
You said in your analogy. You said, well, what if I told you that the radioactive poison?
I don't know why ColdPoison is doing this. He should have just jumped back on the cannot thing right there.
It's unclear how any of this tracks, but if I could at least get one component that I think you're analogizing.
Wait, you can't understand you're completely and totally unable to understand my analogy. It's totally.
I'm trying to understand. You said in your analogy, if someone were to say, what if this radioactive poison were to sometimes harm you? And I'm wondering how that tracks back to what I said.
This is, again, just bad form. Like, don't go into, like, how is your thing analogous to this or whatever. Just stay on the track, right? Are you saying it's impossible? Okay, I thought we'd address that. What's the contradiction? Okay, there's not a contradiction. Okay, so the hypothetical is this. What's your answer to the hypothetical? Don't go into these side tangent. It's just there's no need to do that. It just muddies the waters, confuses things, makes it harder to get to the point.
Okay, what if the radioactive poison was actually always healthy for you? Was always good for you?
Okay, how is that that's an example. How does that track back to what I said? How does that plug in?
You really can't understand how it tracks back to what you said.
What specifically are you trying to analogize?
Okay, I'm going to restate my thing, and I'm going to let you figure it out, okay? I'm saying that if there is a thing, okay, there's a cup of radioactive poison, and when one of the properties of this is when you drink it, your body dissolves, okay? And I say you should never drink the radioactive poison. And if somebody says, oh, yeah, well, I, measure this thing, and actually, this radioactive poison, the stuff you call radioactive poison, this is actually okay for you to drink. So, like, now how do you feel about it? Well, my feelings about that thing would probably change radically, and all things that I define as, like, radioactive poison would change radically.
Sure. So I've heard you restate it, and since you want to play this game of natural language instead of actually spelling it out clearly for me, I'm going to give it to you. You said that there's somebody who would drink a radioactive
Well, he did answer.
poison.
Notice how he actually still even answered that. He's saying, well, I would take a different view. That was the answer. So in the case of the human, when he's beeped, presumably that would be the answer. You'd take a different view.
I was spaced out at that very second, but I'm sure your analysis was right because this is a very simple part of the dialogue.
Yeah.
This is a hypothetical. I don't see how there's anything analogous in terms of the logical components there. And then if you're talking about what I thought you were discussing, which was proving that this was somehow a logical impossibility or something that you couldn't answer or something like that, I didn't get that either from your hypothetical.
But don't do that. I don't see how it's a logical impossibility from your hypothetical. There's no need to make it in terms of the hypothetical. Just, I don't understand how it's logically impossible. I don't see how you've established that.
What?
Try to gain more rhetorical ground. It's okay.
I'm not trying to gain rhetorical ground. You're the one who's using. This is the reason why nobody likes Isaac, by the way. This is right because of the way you guys debate.
Right? Oh man. That was a little more than a stray. That was a direct shot.
Yes, and like this is the thing. I'm not some fucking crazy narcissist who thinks everything is about me. You'll notice whenever other people are complaining about vegans, this and that, I don't say I live in their head, it's all about me. With Destiny it is. It's some weird fucking thing about me, and I don't get why, because I genuinely have been nice to him. Maybe he doesn't actually believe I'm being friendly, and he thinks I always am waiting to fucking prey on him or something like this. Like, I don't fucking know. And maybe I'm to some degree responsible for that, for our initial interactions and being harsh on him. I'd have to watch it. But I can actually say with honesty, I've been pretty friendly to him for quite a while. So I don't know why I have to be this fucking demon that lives in the back of his mind. And also, everybody hates Isaac. Was that what he said? Or nobody likes Isaac? This is why
everyone hates Isaac, by the way. This is why no one well, you could rewind it, but...
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, I'm not convinced that everybody hates me. I've got, a group of people who enjoy what I say.
Let's just be clear on what he said. I'm sorry.
Okay. My point will be the same, but yeah.
What?
Try to gain more rhetorical ground. It's okay.
I'm not trying to gain rhetorical ground. You're the one who's using. This is the reason why nobody likes Isaac, by the way. This is why.
Yeah, this is the reason no one likes Isaac. By the way.
Nobody likes Isaac. Okay, so, I mean, I'm not under the impression that nobody likes me. I seem to get along with most people. I've always gotten along with most people. as long as I can remember, I was kind of friends with everybody. Like in high school, I would hang out with everybody. I'd hang out with the jocks. I'd hang out with the skater kids. I'd hang out with the people who just hang in the trap all day selling weed. I would hang out with the music kids probably the most. I was sort of one of those like artsy kind of music types. I've always pretty much gotten along with everybody. I make content and I have a community, and there's a bunch of people who like that stuff. But yes, there are some people who fucking hate me, and they tend to be retarded, as it turns out. They tend to be fucking idiots who support horrible atrocities or don't understand basic logic. And I think your enemies say something about you. So no, I'm not aware of nobody liking me. That's not been my experience throughout my life at all. I seem to always get along with basically everybody. And in the cases that I don't, it's usually, again, like retarded people who hate something that I've said online, either because they have terrible values or terrible reasoning, or in the cases that it does happen in real life, it's usually because I've decided to let it go there, because there's some kind of relationship where I've decided, like, look, I'm sufficiently bothered by this that I'm going to allow this relationship to burn out, so I'm going to say what I actually think about this person. But no, I don't like this framing, and I think people like me just fine. So no need to say stuff like that.
Right, because of the way you guys
I
debate,
can't
right?
hear you. This is the reason
the
why-
problem is that you're trying to gain rhetorical ground by smashing prop logic and pretending that you're making any kind of coherent point.
He's not even talking about fucking propositional
There was
logic.
no prop logic.
And
there,
this is
but
again-
I think I vaguely understand what he's trying to say, but yeah.
But again, it falls into this category of like vague lashing out at the people and loosely associated concepts that have given you trouble. And you know what the mature thing to do would be? It would be, instead of lashing out at logic when ColdPoison has you in a corner on some vegan hypothetical, or lashing out at me, instead of lashing out at internal critiques when Andrew gives you some trouble with an internal critique, instead of all this bullshit, you know what would be the mature thing to do? To just actually think about if it makes sense and adjust your view accordingly. And if what that actually means is maybe just putting down the fucking corpse and eating some chickpeas, which, by the way, is healthier for you anyway, maybe that's the thing to do. Like, to me, this is so silly, because this is all born of, like, just being a fucking child. Like, why don't you just do the mature thing? Just realize, look, there's sometimes your positions are wrong, and just, if someone hits you with a concept that fucks your position, just learn the concept, adjust your position accordingly, go forward. This is all born of Destiny being unwilling to change and unwilling to learn, at least on certain topics, which I don't fucking understand, because the dude has clearly got the stamina to sit there infinite researching for his entire life, which props to him for doing that. That's a good thing to do. But can you dedicate a fucking remote tiny sliver of that time to just understanding the relevant philosophical concepts? Like, I could explain to you, how long did it take me to show you prop logic, Avi?
Oh, it's been a while. Not long.
Like,
I don't remember. I didn't time it.
it was within a day, though. It was what, like an hour?
Oh no, it was less than that. Yeah, I mean, it was, I don't know, 30 minutes.
It's
I don't remember. I didn't time it.
It's not complicated. Like, it's not hard to understand this. Internal critiques, also not complicated. None of this stuff is complicated. So it's just like, why can't you just invest the sliver of time to just learn how these things work and to address them fairly? And if it requires a position change, just be willing to change your position. You don't, like, dude, he has a bunch of money. Like, he could easily have delicious vegan food constantly, any time he wants, whatever the fuck he wants. So I just view this all as just, I just don't know what other word to use than just childish. Just stop lashing out at me, stop lashing out at philosophy, put down the fucking corpse, realize that you've embarrassed yourself for years now with this stupid fucking disgusting Holocaust support, and just say, you know what? I was wrong. I was just wrong about this, and I was stuck to my position, and I didn't want to change, and the time has come to fucking change, and I've done it. And now I'm aligned properly. Now the AY and Avi communities are no longer my enemies. They're what?
So I don't think he's gonna
Wait,
become a
just
vegan.
let me finish.
Just okay.
Just let me finish. Now the AY and Avi communities are no longer my enemies. They're just helpful communities that when I get in philosophical deep water seem to show up with helpful suggestions and tools for dealing with things. It's like you can just eliminate all of this. Have support and positive interactions with these communities. Be a good role model for all the people watching to you. Be against the fucking biggest moral atrocity ever to exist, and be healthier, and also just not make a fool of yourself over and over and over again. Like, everything about this points in the direction of just change your fucking view and just grow up.
Yeah.
You were gonna say something. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't think he's gonna go. I don't think he's gonna go vegan. I think even something like, just doing away with all of this, like, doing away with all of these things with saying a hypothetical is absurd or saying it's impossible when it's not. Giving and even just understanding different notions of the same concept, or understanding how, like, you still haven't actually answered the question by saying you broaden your understanding, even if you think implicitly you did. All of those things, and just saying, you know what, I like the taste of meat and I just don't care. Like, an answer like that would even be an improvement, because it would just do away with all this other, like, annoyances that are just like, they don't work, and then someone gets triggered and have to, like, put in the work to explain why they don't work. Mm-hmm. Just say you like the taste of meat and you don't give a shit. Like, it's just, which probably is what's going on. If we're being honest, like.
But the thing is, that's not really that simple. Like, he could say, I like the taste of meat and I'm unwilling to have the dialogue, but saying I don't give a shit would be a version of not answering the question, right? So people are just going to still ask, like, okay, but what's the...
Well, but even that would be an improvement. Well, no, it
would be an improvement over a bunch of illogical fucking nonsense, but it still wouldn't... Like, the place he could get to where at least he's not... Like, okay, a further improvement, let's say, would be just refusing to engage, because saying I mean, as long as you're willing to engage and haven't answered the question, you're probably going to get this sort of stuff. Or, yeah, I mean, has answered it here or there, but yeah, I mean, look, if you want to shut it down, just do the Vosh, just accept that you're like Vosh, which I don't think you want to be. I thought that his view is that Vosh was, like, pathetic for some of these, like, locking down kind of moves, but just lock down, be like, I simply refuse to engage on that topic, and there you go. I mean, it's horrible and embarrassing and silly, but it's arguably better than this.
Yeah.
There's one other thing I wanted to say about it. I don't remember. Whatever.
The
if the goal is to just, like, smash the prop logic and do it, you can do it.
Is plastered online. Why do you think?
No one is talking about name of the trade right now. I know that you really are super eager to run down that line of
No.
thought,
I'm giving it as an example. You were just trying to cut me off.
What I'm saying is that there is a lot to explore. I'm not trying. You literally just told me to try to win rhetorically, so I'm going to try to win rhetorically. Okay? You're trying to ask me a hypothetical, and you're saying that I'm refusing to engage with a hypothetical because I'm telling you the hypothetical entails more than a simple yes or no. If somebody were to scan,
okay, more nonsense entails more than a yes or no. Is he saying it doesn't have a yes or no answer? Because the question is just, like, would you support this or not? I mean, technically you could count I don't know as an answer, but clearly that's a question that you don't have to say anything other than yes, no, I'm not sure, right? It's not like the answer is it's not like an open-ended question, like, why do you like this movie? It's like, that's a question that you would answer with, like, a paragraph or something. It's not a question like that. It's a question that has a yes-no kind of formulation to it.
Somebody and show that, hey, this thing that you have this understanding of as being a human being can actually emerge from a totally different thing. Well, then
back to the modal stuff.
My understanding of that category and all of the things that I feel about it, moral, metaphysical, and everything else, those things would also probably radically change.
If you're saying
back to the human one, human two thing, like, it's all just very low level.
didn't give you enough context, then
No,
you
that's
should
not
say
at
that.
all what I just said.
You just said
I
you
didn't
would-
say that. I didn't say that at all.
So then what are you trying to say that's true?
Try to figure it out. What did I just say?
Destiny, this is condescending.
I agree.
What
All right,
specifically? What specifically, with regards to the hypothetical, are you posing as a problem? Because I'm
The problem is that I don't think
confused.
humans can emerge from non-human DNA.
Okay, so ColdPoison should respond to this by saying, "What's the logical contradiction?"
One-
Or do the modal 3-step if you're.
By the way,
unsure
by
it's
the
not-
way,
yeah.
humans absolutely can emerge. Not only can humans emerge from non-human DNA, humans have emerged from non-human DNA.
Right, unless you're some kind of creationist or something like that.
necessarily entails the other.
Right, you said cannot. That's another
Yes.
modal term. Right. So do you think that's what I asked you?
No.
So then you're not tracking the hypothetical.
I am tracking the hypothetical. I'm just saying
You
that-
just said no, that's not what I asked you. And the whole audience laughed just a moment ago with regards to when you said the term condescending.
What I'm saying is
But
that if you were to
didn't- but
show
you didn't-
me-
You admitted you didn't track the hypothetical, so I'm going to give it back to you. I said if I took out a beep detector and found out that you were
I think this is at literally the moment where I joined. I think I joined right here.
technically not human, you're telling me that you can't understand the concept behind it because of some sort of idea that the hypothetical I gave you is absurd, logically impossible. Whenever I unpacked that, you didn't have an answer.
I'm saying I understand the concept behind it. I'm just saying that thing...
That's all that's required.
Okay, I'm saying that it would radically change my concept or understanding of that particular
Like, do I need to keep flagging the human?
1, 2. Yeah, 1, 2.
category. But it wouldn't necessarily change the way that
What
I engage with
category?
it. The category of human. Maybe instead then I would split it into two categories of, oh, well, I guess there's maybe subdivision human A and subdivision
Oh my
human B.
god!
Destiny is almost
Okay.
fine. Yeah.
Oh my god, he's getting there. He's getting it. Human 1, human 2. Okay, but then the response is, okay, then it's not human 1. We agree.
Right. If you understand that there's human 1 and human 2, which presumably is understood all along, because he's saying it would change. Presumably the one before is one thing and the one after is another thing. If you understand there's two notions, then there's just one more step here, which is noticing that ColdPoison's question is indexed to the first notion, not to the second one.
But these would still be part of the ontological category of humans.
That's weird. So that's some weird
get that.
mishmashing the definitions together into somehow they're one thing. Like, look, there's just two notions. He's asking the question with respect to the first one. And if you want to say, actually, I'd like to change my notion of human, that's fine. We all understand the first one is going to lead to unacceptable consequences, and now we talk about the second one. I don't like these. Again, it's this. He does this with philosophy, this weird, vague, wishy-washy stuff all the time, like that. And that was an example of that. They're somehow kind of one thing, but they're also not. But since they're one thing, it's impossible. And just confused.
So you haven't
The
escaped
current
human
you now, the
problem.
current you now is making that decision. Then you're saying.
I'm saying that could be possible. I don't know what the difference would be. I guess we would have to dive more into the distinction. But if you measure something and you find out that it's actually something that you didn't think it was, then I would have to reanalyze that category. I'd have to change the way that I view
But
it.
I'm asking the you now. So is it the trait belong?
I just wish that instead of going back to the you now, you just said, I'm just asking with respect to that first notion of category, that first definition.
Right.
And its answer is so simple. It would just be no. No, I would change my notion. So I would use a different notion and it wouldn't be the first notion.
Right. Yeah. There's no need to talk about the you now, which uses that definition. You just talk about that definition.
To the species Homo sapien or not?
Right now it is, yes. But
When I gave
All
you
right,
the word
final
idea-
thoughts,
Wait,
Mr.
no, wait, hold on.
Vegan.
No,
Final
no,
thoughts.
wait, hold on. Okay. When somebody 10,000 years ago identified something as water,
At least props to Destiny for not taking the fucking rope there to the here's the out from Pangburn.
okay,
Yeah.
and they identified a thing as water, and when somebody today identifies a thing as H2O, are they identifying the exact same thing? Do they both mean the same thing? Are they both saying the same thing?
And I would also say there's no need to even get into this kind of stuff. Like, we can talk about, like, we're going to do some, like, twin Earth kind of shit. You have a whole point about this, so I'll let you make your point. You want to watch a bit more first?
I want to complete the.
Okay, I'll let
first.
you pause it then, yeah.
Not
I'm just saying, I want to complete
How
the
not?
debate.
What's the difference?
If someone were to, well, from your hypothetical, if someone were to describe the same concept, but someone were to understand it differently, then no,
So two people, you bring them 10,000 years ago and a modern person. One person looks at a thing and they go, oh, that's water. And the other person goes, oh, that's H2O.
Okay.
Are they identifying and talking about the same thing?
of course, yeah. If they point to the same exact object and say that they're they described it differently, but they're talking about the same thing.
Do they have? Could they not have a different understanding of the thing?
They
For instance,
could.
the guy who says something is water, maybe the other guy, and then you say, oh, well, water and H2O are the same thing, and then you identify it as H2O. Well,
Wait,
maybe it's not.
But it's not the same thing. This was originally about moral sufficiency, and I know that you've tried to take
No,
out
no,
the
no, hold on.
throttle
We're not at the moral sufficiency. I'm just saying that
that's the
I'm
thing
saying
you
that
compare.
just because we've refined our understanding of water doesn't mean that all of a sudden water doesn't exist, or water is the same thing as every other thing. Much the same that if you were to
But
put some kind of
Destiny.
detector on me and you were to show that
What do
human
you-
beings, or what I consider to be human beings, emerge from something that's not just human DNA, therefore species doesn't matter. Well, it might be that species matters, but there's
Well, no one's. The point is not that species doesn't matter. It's just not what. It's just not. The trait wouldn't be human one then. That's all. Species could still matter in some other way.
species matters, but there's like a further delineation that I would
When you
draw.
s-
Maybe, possibly. That could be the case.
When you say matters, that's relative to something, which was originally
matters
what?
insofar as moral assignment goes.
You just said that's not what we were talking about. You said no, it's not about being
Not
moral.
about the water and the H2O
That is,
thing,
but
that's
that is what the
distinction I'm
discussion
saying.
was, though. It
Yes,
was
but
about
if you would have
moral
put a
value.
beeper on, okay, so here's like a possibility. Let's say you put a beeper on me, and you find out that like, oh, look, it's not human DNA, it's human bee DNA. Then I would go, oh, okay.
What do you mean by human bee DNA?
I don't know. Whatever the beeper measures. What would the beeper measure?
That you're not belonging to the.
Destiny, I think, confused himself a little bit there. It's not whatever the beeper measures. It's whatever I change my notion to after the beeper measures me as not human with respect to the first definition.
Right. It would just be you'd be valuing human bee DNA or whatever, which is like approach you could take at least. The DNA that whatever is me that the beeper is measuring plus human DNA.
Yeah, the beeper measures
Human one
one
DNA.
Yeah.
Species Homo sapien. That's
What the
only
species
trait
Homo
that you-
sapien
that's the
that's
only
a
trait that
category
you
of
said-
stuff that can expand or shrink depending on how we define it, though.
Of course, but your trait that you said causes the morally relevant distinction where moral value is lost is just not belonging to the species Homo sapien.
Sure, but there could be greater subdivisions of the species Homo sapien if that's what you measure on a device.
Is that to say that if there was a non-Homo sapien belonging species that you found out you were, that you could possibly value it?
Well, it would be hard to imagine.
Is that yes?
It would be hard to imagine that.
You don't want to answer yes or no.
I mean, I guess yes, that could be the case.
So then it's not the case that necessarily belonging to the species Homo sapien matters.
Well, I don't know. I don't like the matters, but what that does mean is that the trait isn't human one.
You can say it's being subjectively similar. You can say it's beings that are similar. You can name whatever trait or set of traits you want, but you're invited to think about it instead of just
I'm
jumping.
not really
and naming
naming
the trait.
necessarily a trait. I'm naming like a category of things.
Is it?
That's also just a confusion. Like, I mean, actually, I think ColdPoison clears this up if I recall correctly. But we're just talking about anything that differentiates them. It could be something, a group they belong to. It could be some physical feature they have. These are all acceptable traits.
A thing true of the being of one set of beings versus another set of beings?
What does it mean by a thing true of?
A characteristic, a property about them. So if I look at humans, you recognize there's a set of characteristics or things true of them, right?
Sure, although I'm not.
It's not a gotcha. You're not signing off on anything
I
crazy.
don't trust him. I'm not worried about signing off on gotchas.
Oh, okay.
I think that I mean, like, I think that
there's a set of things true of you, Destiny.
Sure, there
right
is a
now.
set of things that are called human beings. Yes, I think scientifically right now it's like Homo sapiens how we define that category of things.
Characteristics. Right. So those are
Okay.
all built off of characteristics.
Sure.
Okay, and so we'll re-explain this again. That the concept of animals have a set of things that are true of them as well, right?
Sure.
Okay, so that means that you do understand the concept of traits, which is just to say things true of the two sets of beings. And again, name the trait is asking where moral value is lost between the two sets of beings. So when you say that the trait is belonging to the species Homo sapien, but I were to remove that thing that's true of the being, in this case you, because of the beep detector, then it would have to follow logically. It's not trying to pull a gotcha because I don't care about whether or not you succumb to that position. I would hope that you would actually be logically consistent and not absurd and say that you do have moral value still.
Yeah, but
you're
the
one who
problem is
named
you're trying to
said
say
that you
that the mistake you're making
That was all fine by ColdPoison. That was good.
is you're thinking that if you can show that the underlying property that I cared about is somehow different, that would necessarily explode that underlying property, or I never cared about that underlying property.
I don't know what exploding property. Okay, I don't actually care about it. That's right though.
Yeah.
It shows that that's not actually the trait.
Well, you could still, yeah. Well, to be clear, you could still care about that property. It's just
Yeah.
not the trait.
Yeah, that's right.
It not being the trait doesn't mean you don't care about it.
That's right. Yeah.
at all.
Wait,
when it might be
what
the
do you mean
fact
by
that there might
explode?
be, let me explain. There might have been some old person who says, I like to drink water, and water is important to me, but sometimes the water kills them because they're drinking salt water or something else that's poisonous. And go, okay, well, actually, no. It
we're
wasn't the
changing
water.
the context
I'm not
again.
changing the context. It wasn't the water that was important. It was the H2O that was important. You just hadn't identified that trait yet, right? So it could be the case that you could identify me as some different species or some finer thing or whatever that I wasn't aware of before, but that wouldn't necessarily say, oh, well, now I'm going to explode my concept of what moral value gets assigned to every single species that exists.
Well, that's
So
what he
when
means
the
by
trait
explode.
is posited to
So
you,
he's
the context is
Okay.
held equal of the two.
so I do understand what he means by explode. He means that, oh, well, if I agree that he seems to be saying, oh, you're saying that if I agree that it wasn't what I said initially, then I explode my sense of morality in the sense that I extend it to all these other beings.
Right.
That doesn't follow. No, you don't have to do that.
No,
You
of
could
course
just
not.
refine it in a way it doesn't do that. That's all.
Yeah, it's just one little step is imposed on you now, which is like you have to like clearly the trait isn't what you said before, so we're just back to that part of the dialogue. It's just okay. Well, what is the trait then?
Of the two things. So it's, for example, in the as you understand, name the trait with regards to veganism. It's killing and eating one set of beings for food versus another. With regards to Trump, how I posed it, I said with regards to stripping away children from mothers in, of course, like an innocent context where, they want to be with each other. So when you say, what I don't understand is when you go back to the radioactive point, where I lose you is in trying to track what.
I don't even think. How do me and Trump even have a distinction on the traits? What are we even talking about there?
Wait. Can I just get?
Actually, I don't even know
I think I probably agree with. I think they both just probably would say some bullshit like human.
distinction works because me and Trump
point-
still identify both as like being like moral humans or whatever. We just assign like
hold on.
different.
Can I understand what you're trying to say about the radioactive point? Because I don't even think I understood what
This is
your
not an
point
example that comes up in the vegan server. What do you guys normally argue on?
What are you talking
Oh my
about?
God.
Yeah, more rhetorical cheap shots. Let's go.
It sounds like if you haven't heard like a particular argument before, you can't fathom it. Like
He's not saying anything like that.
you can't follow any of my
I'm asking
analogies or
what
any
your
of my like.
particular view is.
What my particular, I explained it
No,
like 20 times. I'll explain it again for you. That's okay. Yeah.
That sounds.
what?
Wait, hold on. Please don't take advantage of the natural language that I'm defaulting to because I'm just nervous on stage.
I'm
listening.
using.
That sounds like something Trump
First
would
of
do
all,
in
I
front
think
of
I'm using
reporters.
natural language most up here. Okay, you're the one that wants to keep harping back on like using the.
I'm
logic
just.
or whatever.
I'm just trying to make sure I actually understand
It's not even using prop logic, but
Yeah.
you, and it doesn't seem like you're trying to understand me or help me to understand you.
Okay.
So back to the radioactive point. Thank you. Back to the radioactive point. What were you trying to specifically make a point about insofar as this context is concerned? Because if I ask you with regards to one context that's held equal, but the traits about them change, and you mentioned radioactive content, and sometimes it hurts you, sometimes it doesn't, that doesn't sound like it tracks to what I'm, analogizing.
What I'm saying is that if I identify human being as being this foundational trait that I think we all share, that we're all like the thing that gives us moral consideration, and then you say, well, I just measured something, and it's that human being thing that you're valuing is actually not a human being thing, it's something else, then what I would say is, well, I would probably change my definition of human being then to encompass whatever the new thing that you measured was.
So if you would change the trait from your current view, then that's not the trait. What
It's
is
not
the
that,
trait?
it's not
then?
so
that's the right answer.
much that I'm changing
Or a
the-
set of traits.
It's not necessarily that I'm changing the trait, it's that the trait was a proxy for something different. Much the same that when people
No, it is.
Well, that's
You go ahead. Sorry.
if the trait was the proxy for something different I need some clarity on that. If the trait is proxy for something different that is the trait, then that wasn't the trait.
That's right.
Because it would be different. Yeah.
Right. No, it is a change. You could classify that change in a certain way that makes it seem a bit more reasonable, like it's a refinement or something like that. But I mean, if you're still saying two distinct things, right? At one point you had this one definition that failed, and now you want to modify it, then that's fine. But those are two different notions.
in the past say
That's
they,
just meant to mean the same thing.
What?
It's reducible. So if you said
Yeah, but I don't know how reducible anything ultimately is. So the guy that says water might not think water is reducible to, a molecule. But like in the future, we might
Can
know
I
the water's
explain
reducible.
what I mean? Can I explain what I mean when I say reducible instead
Sure.
of it being so? Okay. So when you say you would change human because you would presumably find that hypothetical to be unpalatable to your own preferences, then what it sounds like you're saying is that you would consider Destiny 2.0 or that other version of you to still have moral value. So from your current perspective, you could just recognize that and say that it's not the trait belonging to Homo sapien, and just try to think and elaborate on it like you said you would.
Well, I would have to ask like
That's fine. I mean, it could be said better.
Yeah, that's
than
all
that.
fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
what the differences are.
What differences are of what?
If you're measuring something and you're saying that the science detector is measuring something different, the question would the next question
Not
would be, well, what's
belonging to the
difference?
species Homo sapien,
Yeah,
because
but they
the
don't.
trait,
The,
as I
the
asked
science
you,
detector doesn't measure that, right?
wait, what?
That is
You'd want to dial. No, but you want to dial in because it's not just it wouldn't be measuring you not being Homo sapiens. It would be measuring something that tells it that you're not Homo sapiens. It's a test to see. It's just that would just be restating the. That would just be a restatement. So you want to say it's like, okay, it's measuring some genetic proximity, and if it's like the threshold is below 90%, then you're not Homo sapien or whatever percentage it is.
I don't see the need. I don't see the need for that. It's just it measures if you're human or not.
Well, the reason for that is because you'd want to. You could say that index to however you're defining human.
That's right. Yeah,
that's fine. Yeah, the reason it gets those framings is like people have different notions of what human is, and so like you can index it to whatever is human. I suspect when you do that broadly, it's gonna be like that's not gonna be appreciated. It's gonna sound like you're just like baking it in depth, like analytically, like you're stipulating that like it didn't do it in a way that worked how you defined human in a specific way, like DNA or morphology or something.
Yeah.
Rather, it's just anyway. I that sometimes causes some confusion. It might cause some confusion here.
I understand. I think there's an easier way to avoid the confusion than to talk about how it might be functioning on the inside. Like, oh, maybe it measures your genes and this and that. Just say it just measures whether you are human with respect to the definition you initially used of human.
Yeah, whatever things constitute being human, such that if you don't have them, you're not a human. It just measured that you didn't have that.
Yeah, you don't even need to talk about things, though. Like, you can just say it just spits out an answer as to whether you're human or not in the sense of the word human that you initially used.
Sure.
Science detector doesn't measure ontological categories.
But I do see the point of intuition pumping if you think, like, telling them kind of how it works on the inside might get them to understand it, but yeah.
It's stipulated in my hypothetical that it would measure that.
Well, then it feels like you're almost begging the question. Like, I don't think I can...
What do you mean?
Yeah, he is getting confused on this.
The fact that you're necessarily like prohibiting me from answering the question in a way that is logically consistent because you're saying...
There's a lot of weird language baked in. What do you mean by prohibiting? Because you're able to give whatever sort of answer you want.
Ooga booga.
If you don't like the logical consequences of your view to justify that you would kill Destiny 2.0, all I'm going to say, Destiny, is you should really think about how that's probably because you actually are not like Trump. And I actually did have faith in you. I think you're a lot smarter than that. You don't have to be on the wrong side of history. But every day you wake up and you say, you know what, I could change my view. I could think about this further. You'd still be wealthy. You'd still be popular. You'd still have, all these things going for you. But unfortunately, you just don't want to recognize what Isaac has pinned you on, what Regan Gaines have pinned you on. And that's philosophically. That's not in terms of combat. You can have a private discussion.
Okay, I'll get right on that, okay.
All right, I think we're going to move on now. Put your hands together. He had a really good run. All right.
Okay, so that's it. It's over. We did manage to keep it under 3 hours. Mm-hmm. What you want to give any like kind of closing thoughts or anything, Avi?
Yeah, I just want to close on the point I made that I posted.
Sure.
So, because so aside from the fact that we go through the that it wouldn't be a response to NTT, I think broadly it misses the point of the thought experiment, and it misses the purpose of the thought experiment is to try to get you to hopefully realize that actually it's not really the thing you cared about.
Right.
So now you can take. And we could do that with the water analogy. Like if you value drinking water, like what do you value when you say you value drinking water? Do you value intrinsically drinking something that is H2O? Is that like the intrinsic thing you value? Probably not. Like if there was H2X, where X is just the stand-in for whatever other chemical formula there is, and it's not O, so it's not just saying.
Can you stay near your mic?
Oh, sure. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah. So H2X, where X is like just whatever. Stand-in for a chemical formula that's not O, so you're not just saying H2O again. And it turns out that it has all the same physiologic effects. It quenches your thirst. It hydrates you. H2X hydrates you. H2X doesn't have any negative health downsides. H2X costs the same amount as a bottle of water. Like, you'd value drinking H2X just as much for the same physiologic functions. And so at that point, you can take different approaches. You can say, oh, maybe I just intrinsically value drinking H2O and H2X. Oh, maybe I'm just going to say I intrinsically value the thing that's labeled water, WATER, and now I'm just going to expand my notion of WATER as H2O and H2X. Or you can engage with the thought, with the purpose of the thought experiment, and realize, actually, maybe it's not that I intrinsically value either of these things. I just care about being hydrated and quenching my thirst and all the things that water does for me. This quote-unquote water. And so, and now, most people should understand that this is like kind of obvious, but just to complete the point, even if someone is really stubborn and wants to go, no, I really just I really just value H2X and H2O. Or I'm just going to expand my notion of water to include H2O and H2X. Well, that doesn't really work either, because even if one wants to stubbornly stick to that sort of response, it's going to suffer theoretical virtues. Like, you can expand this. You can go like H2X, H2Y, H2Z, and just stipulate all the same things that just happen to align with all the other things you value, like having your thirst quenched, having, being hydrated, etc. And the problem with the other approaches is that they're all going to suffer theoretical vices. It's not going to really explain why you're valuing these things, because, as well as the other hypothesis, because it's not as parsimonious. It's actually potentially infinitely non-parsimonious in the sense that it posits infinite entities, and it's not a theory that has unity. It's not a unifying theory. In fact, it's the exact opposite of a unifying theory. It doesn't explain all the elements with one or a few posits. It's a completely disjointed, and that's going to be true whether you independently intrinsically value H2O and H2X, or just by proxy have another way of doing that by expanding what water means to include H2O, H2X, H2Y, H2Z, and just include everything underwater that just so happens to match all of your physiologic things that you care about, rather than just saying, hey, I actually just care about the physiologic things. I actually just care about what water does for me. And so that's the much more simple answer, and that's the simple answer in human as well. It's not that we care about this, what percentage of the DNA is proximal to me that's in the Human Genome Project somewhere, and that's what makes me, that's what I care about, that's what gives me a right to life. Like, no, you value humans because of your interactions with humans, you love humans, we have relationships with humans.
Yes.
We marvel at the things humans do. Humans are awesome. That's why. Like, it's not any of this gene shit. Like, it's not like, oh, well, if only the base pairs, if we just arranged a few base pairs, then, even if everything else was the same, we wouldn't have, like, fuck off. Like, that's not why. Or this idea that, like, expanding the notion of human, like, well, I'm just going to expand the notion of human to include all these other arrangements that just so happens to align with all the other things I love about humans, conveniently. No, I mean, that's also not going to suffer the theoretical vices as well. So that's really where I'll end off. It's just like, it misses. Yeah, you can have all the. It's not. We all understand it's not going to respond to the name of the trait, but more broadly, the further point I want to make is it's not really. It's just missing the point.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, I agree with all that. I think in closing, all I'll say, unless you had more. Do you have more?
No. That's where I am.
So yeah, I initially came into this debate near the end. I think I pointed out where I came in, where it's just like ColdPoison, just like Destiny just dodging the hypothetical, ColdPoison pointing out it's a dodge, Destiny trying to do modal stuff, saying it's impossible, ColdPoison saying how, show the contradiction, then returning to the hypothetical, Destiny trying to do rhetoric, and ColdPoison just being like, okay, well, that's just rhetoric, just like actually answer the question. And then at the end of the whole thing, just being like, look, dude, if at the end of the day you just consistently get annihilated every time you talk to someone competent about this, maybe that's just a sign you should change your view. So that was kind of the part I saw. So my initial assessment of this was like, well, that was just a total annihilation. But now, having seen the whole thing, I have a slightly different assessment. So my assessment is basically that at the start, it was pretty fucked. The setup was really fucked, and ColdPoison was doing this weird, like, alternating between tons of different points that just... I really hated all of that. I thought it was really bad. The thing I will say that's really good about ColdPoison is, as long as it's actually on NTT and not falling into any of these weird fucking side tangents, he seems to know exactly how to respond and to do a pretty good job. There's things that could be tightened up, like you could just refer to definition 1 and 2 rather than proxying with the human who holds the definition and talking about times and stuff like that. But, I mean, overall, his responses are good. And if you just ignore all the fluff and just focus in on the NTT run that happened here, it's just basically, what's the trait that separates humans from animals such that it's okay to be like separating one from their kids and then doing all the shit to them? It's being human. Okay, we scan you with the gene scanner, same physiology as far as you can tell, same mental content. Is it now okay to stab you to death? And then Destiny seems to just be doing a whole ton of random bullshit there. He seems to be saying that's impossible, but not being able to show how. He seems to be sometimes kind of biting the bullet, or maybe not, I don't remember. He seems to be doing weird shit where he says, like, my notion of human would change, but that's just not answering the question on the notion that the question was posed with respect to, which was human one. So as far as NTT goes, ColdPoison just utterly fucking dick slapped Destiny. But there is a ton of other fluff. There is a poor setup of the question, and all of that definitely damaged the overall performance. But there's definitely a kernel of like really solid NTT going on there. So I'll give him props on that aspect.
All right. Well, I guess that concludes the review. All right. Cool.
Okay, I'm going to stop the recording.